Hi, good morning. Today is February 28th, 2019, and it is now 10:12. We are about to begin our work session. If we could start by standing for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we are going to just start out our first discussion item. This is just a reminder for the board, if you would like to do committee reports, so what we were thinking, because there's so much work going on in the committees that we don't necessarily talk about, and I think that in order to do that, on the weeks that we do not have resolutions, if you would like to report off on your committees.
This is also about the schedule for
Okay.
committees to come in, which I previously handed out to you guys. I know you've all been talking to your committees, so this is just a friendly reminder. I also sent it to Karen, just to give you a copy, because some people have swapped around their schedules already, so
Yeah.
just a friendly reminder to help
Great.
you with that.
So if anybody needs to swap their dates, to just call Patrick and let him know, and we can fit that into the calendar. So our next, any questions, anybody? Any thoughts? Okay, so next we have Riverhead Loft, site plans amendment. We have Jefferson Murphy. I understand Dave Gallo will not be attending, and we have Connie Lissandro representing the project. Bob, did you wanna come up for this also, please? Good morning.
Good morning.
Karen, come on up, sorry. So how would you like to address this? How would you like to start? Would you like to have Connie, Karen, Jeff?
We have an application, request by the applicant to amend the building architecture. So Connie is here today to, y'all have an application package which shows you what was approved and what is proposed. So Connie, why don't you tell the board what you're proposing?
Okay, basically, it's really kind of simple. We are looking to, change the color of the brick for the exterior of the building. We got a lot of feedback, from many, developers throughout the island and architects and just constituents as well, as asking, why are you doing what you're doing? And, we went back to the drawing board, and it's been recommended, and I have, presentation boards to show you, and you've got photographs as well, is we would like to change the red to a gray with the white, to be more in line with where we are. We're actually by the water, and it kind of just gives, a nicer feeling of going down to the water with blue and not this red sticking out at you. And I think from the comparison, you can see the difference, how inviting it is.
Do you have color samples?
Yes, I do.
I don't have these color pictures. Where did these-
So, not photos,
Jeff, could I
because
have
those
these
sometimes
pictures?
don't actually,
I didn't get that.
You didn't get that? Here.
Thanks.
those actually don't
Yeah, we
express
have-
the true color, so I just, and the ARB and the Landmarks Preservation Commission, have you approached them?
No, we have not.
We're coming to you first to get your take on it. So oftentimes, people are going to landmarks and ARB before they get to the board, and the plan gets changed before you get to see the original.
Okay.
So today, you're gonna get to see it for the first time, and then,
Thank you for that.
and then you can decide whether or not to refer it to ARB, and then it will go to landmarks also.
So I just have one question.
Sure.
So where the red the only changes being requested are where the red bricks are to go to the more blue-gray bricks.
Right.
Other than that, there are no changes in anything.
No, they're not.
The material's
But-
exactly the same?
Yes, here, I have it here.
I think the Mylar just label the other color differently that you have provided.
I think it should just, I mean,
This is the
Landmarks and
original.
ARB do look at colors.
It looks beautiful.
This is the original,
The
and it's
original
kind of
said,
washed.
Tuscan Series Oyster Gray, and
That's
this
what
one
they
says
call it.
Belden JK Series Light.
Yeah, it's just the color in it. This is the new, suggested brick, and this is the part
The
with the
cream,
white.
like the
And you
cream
can
one.
see how it kind of really
Now, I do
It's
notice,
classy.
yeah, I do notice one other difference. The red originally had two white bands running
Yes, we
through
did
it,
change that.
which I think helped break it all up more, and those are no longer there.
I'll show it to you, you can see it, I think, fit better on the presentation boards.
It was the cornice, and that was one of the ones that I know Landmarks in particular wanted it, so that it could tie it all together.
Yeah, I liked the white bands.
I'm gonna bring this a little bit closer for everybody
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if not having that actually breaks it up more.
Okay, well, I'm not an architect or a designer.
I'm just
So
making a
that's
comment,
why
I'm just,
I-
that's all.
Yeah,
Well,
we,
you know, I do have eyeballs.
Hey,
I have
John?
an opinion.
you can see here, it kinda, this is what you're talking about, right, the
Mhm.
white, and we did away with it here, you can see. But, see the difference here, where it kinda,
But isn't that
Yes.
variation actually in the other one? It's just that
This?
it doesn't show up as much?
yeah, it's washed.
There is
it-
variation.
It is, but it's really washed, it's a
I
washed
just didn't
away
know if you
look.
couldn't see it because of the way the colors are done,
No.
but actually, I think it is there.
It is, but like I said, it's a washed look.
So those are a different brick than the front facade,
It's not a different brick, it's just a different color, but it appears different.
okay.
I mean, I like the way it looks too, but for some reason, the Architectural, or Landmarks Preservation Commission especially, is very particular about colors.
I know.
In a National Historic District. I mean, there have been proposals for yellow buildings, and they said, no, make it red brick to match the building next door, or what have
I
you,
know,
so.
we went back and forth with them, I can't tell you how many times, but, you know, the more even I drive around that area, even across the street, it's all white buildings, and even the houses, I mean, it's not.
It's not the brick end of
It's not
town.
a brick, you know, if we were on Main Street, the whole building, I'd say, you know, that, it probably would be better red, but we're not. This part is on McDermott, which is going down towards the water, and it's so much more appealing to the area, we think, you know.
I agree, it provides a lot more of a dimensional look
Yeah.
than the red brick does, but I still don't understand why, I mean, I guess you want the approval from this board first, but I think that it's still, and if you just left the samples in my office, I'm sure Landmarks members would come by and take a look at it. and-
That's fine, you
Have no
can have
problem
them,
with
they're
it.
heavy.
Now, let me just ask you, these renderings do show the awnings,
Yeah,
the
here,
blue, when you were doing the red brick, what color were the awnings?
they were blue. Because here's the, now here, this will give you an idea.
You don't have the original drawing, cause
I have one,
The,
yeah. But if you look
Mylar
here,
didn't show,
yeah, cause it doesn't
Awnings.
show the awnings, that's why that
But
would
I
make.
think the awnings are,
I mean,
could
we
be
can-
changed to whatever color
And
that were
that's not-
requested,
No, I'm
correct?
just,
you know.
yeah, but I like to see the final product.
I mean, right now, we've had it blue, and I think I have the old ones with me, I'll show it to you. But here's your view from northeast, the corner of Maple, so you can see how it kind of really blends in with the white and the, what have you, even this building here, instead of the red popping out at you.
Well, I understand wanting to tie in, and you're saying, because of the water and such, my concern, which I'm sort of torn about, is I think that the red and the white was more of a contrast, and the whole idea was that it would break up the mass of the building. And for me, particularly in this picture, with these colors are closer, and it actually looks more massive to me, that's my concern, that's why I'm asking
Well,
if I could see the other renderings too.
The only thing that I do think that gives it more of the dimension is the distinguishing features on the side where it goes back in and back out. I think those distinguishing, like these gray features on the side here, I think does visually give dimension to the, you know, whereas it's a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Where it blends a little bit more with the white on white, even if it's a minor shade of difference, it seems to be more dimensional with that aspect.
But I believe that the white bands on the red actually breaks it up more this way. And for me, the red and white breaks up the mass more.
I mean, we can go back to the white here, but, you know, the architects felt it was more, soothing to the eye.
Now, what's the cost? Is
think you're
the
right.
gray more cost effective?
No, actually, it's more money. This is the, look from, this is Main Street, this remains the white.
And that was already like that. Yeah, and I like that with blue awnings, has a nice look.
And here is the back, this is the restaurant on the river, which is the blue, so we, you know, you really don't wanna do blue awnings here and then red here, and, you know, you really wanna make it flow.
Is there a reason that the band on the white is in another color to break it up also, just the mass of it?
Over here,
Yeah, was there a reason that that was not like because a lot of the buildings that we have do have I'm not sure what you call it right there, but have that on
Yeah.
all of the
you
buildings
can
too?
see there's a bit of gray up here, so it certainly could be done down here too.
Just as a question to the architects,
Yeah.
you know, would that give that a little bit more dimension instead of being so massive to sort of, you know, just bring the eye
Break it up.
visually up to there instead of going all the way straight up?
Yeah, that's a good question. And
You know, in the
right,
front and the
of course
back.
this is- Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I like the gray, I'm not so sure I agree with the white brick being softer. I think without that, it's much more softer.
You kinda have to look at it for a while
I'm
first,
so- what-
Right,
I'm
I
not
know,
sure
it's
what
hard
you're
to make
saying.
a fast
What
decision on
are you
that.
saying, Jim?
I'm saying, without having those white lines define it, like on the red brick that it showed on red brick, the.
Oh, the breakup in the front
I
entrance
think
area?
that actually gives it a lot more height than without it. I
And
think- I
For
think
me,
it's better
since I wasn't here when you guys originally approved it, I mean, I would love to see, you know, sorry Jim, beating you up. The bigger picture of the red and white so I could compare them, it's kinda hard to compare them.
Oh, yeah, we
Just-
wanted
I
to do it
know.
on one board, so you can, you know, you
I
can
know.
just do so much.
But I just feel like this particular picture doesn't necessarily pick up the details that were in the red and the white.
And you'll,
That's about what you're gonna get, I mean,
you'll never get a shadow like that either, that's not the way the sun goes.
You're right.
Yes, I know, the shadowing.
You won't get that shadow.
The sky is darker in
It's
the
gonna come this
bottom
way.
picture, the shadowing is different.
You don't have the shadow on the top picture and the bottom.
Right. Coloring's a little different.
no, I don't have the old ones with me.
Just the look of the gray brick over the red brick, I think is nicer. It seems to be a little bit more textured than the other one. If we could take a look at those again.
Sure. This is the original.
I do like the texture on the gray brick.
Yeah, I do too.
I
Of course,
think,
I like an old brick. I like weathered red brick is my
And that's
favorite.
what the landmarks liked also.
Yeah, but
That's
if you
always
know,
my
if you
favorite.
if you drive through town, you see a lot of this red brick with all this white, it
I
really
hear you.
looks distorted, it looks like it's dirty.
Yeah, you look at,
It's the
you come out of
epoxy.
Jerry's and you look at the Hyatt there,
Yeah,
it's ugly.
I-
it's the
particularly-
lime seeping out of
Yeah.
it, because
And that's-
whatever way it was put in, it
Yeah.
has the
Yeah,
lime dripping out of it.
So, you know, I just think this is, and also, don't forget, this is also, this brick is gonna be on the wall in between the two properties.
That's
this
what I
is
was
all-
wondering at the back. The back is all one color?
This is all gray. The wall, that wall between the two buildings. And you know, and let's face it, I mean, if a
Do
building
we
goes
have a
up
west
there,
picture?
this is very costly to put brick up there and it's gonna be covered up. So, you know, we're trying to be very accommodating, but in the same token,
I did wanna mention.
Which is the back of the building?
Well, the back is the south, and the west is the one adjacent to.
Yeah, so where's the west?
This is the west up here.
So, but the west is broken up by colors, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just wanted to mention, Connie and I discussed
Right.
this, that somehow between the original approval for the building and the signage of the Mylar, labeling came on for a mural on the west side, which I don't believe was anyone's intent.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
just a little history. Yeah.
Between the approval, the original approval, and when the Mylar was signed, somehow some labeling came up that there would be a mural on the west side, and I don't think that was anyone in the town's intent. And the new one also shows this mural, but Connie has told me that's not their intent.
It was originally said, well, let's do a mural there in meantime until we know what's gonna happen with the adjacent property. But, you know, and then we went to brick, and I said, well, I don't think we wanna put a mural on this brick.
So that needs
You
to be,
know.
that could just be erased off though.
So we can take that off, there's not gonna be a mural, unless the town, of course, wants it, but,
Connie, I
No.
just I just am wondering, the gray and the white both have texture,
Yes,
but the red didn't, how come the red
Because
wasn't
that's the
used
way
in the
it-
textured
they
one?
don't, it
They
didn't
don't.
come that way,
Okay,
yeah, and
I
like
don't
I
know
said.
if it was requested, was it requested?
No, and we looked into it, it really doesn't come, it was flat, and I have to tell you, this is significantly more money, which Dave is
well, I
willing
would
to do.
think the textured one is more,
know,
that's why I was wondering why the red wasn't in the texture.
Number one, it wasn't requested, and when we did ask about it, they didn't have this particular brick, that was approved in the texture.
There is red brick though that does have texture.
Yeah.
But for some reason,
This is
that's the sample that the Landmarks Preservation Commission approved,
Right,
so.
and, personally, I think this has got no pizzazz at all.
No, I like a brick with texture. I'm not totally against the gray. My whole concern is that I felt the red and the white and the detailing with the horizontal band helped break up the mass, and it is, is going to be a massive building. So I'm always looking to break up the mass, which is what they did at Conifer too.
So can you go back to the architects and ask what the reason was for moving that and just some,
It's still there, it's
The
just a
banding
black
is
brick,
there,
it's
but it's
just a
just
gray
not,
brick.
it's the same color.
Right.
It's not,
Yeah.
is it a different direction or something? Is there
No,
any
it's-
definition to it?
It's there,
it's there, it's just not painted white, it's
It's
just
just
this
they
little
did
gray
the
brick
gray.
instead of the white brick.
But it's a different design than the other brick, so there will be something there?
No, it looks like it's the same, it's just.
So how is it there if it's not there?
it's the color, it's just the color, the
Explain
band is
that
there.
You need to look at it.
Yeah.
Look.
The band is there, it's
The band
just,
is there.
Oh, I see, so the bricks are in a different direction?
Yes,
They're.
the banding of the brick is different.
Yeah.
It's just that this was white.
That's fine with me. The gray, because of the proximity to the water, to the river, the gray is more nautical themed
Yes.
than the red brick, and I think it would go much better. I prefer gray.
we don't want it to stand out and
Right.
be like, oh, look at that ugly building,
Right, what are they gonna say that?
We're gonna, we hope not.
I personally, I like the gray, I like the definition on the sides to, that the part that's coming out becomes much more defined from the setbacks.
too.
I think
Yeah,
that
I
brings
agree.
it up much more visually than when you have the sort of white on white.
So is this gonna be gray and white?
Yes,
That'll be these two bricks, correct?
these are the bricks, these are the only two bricks that'll be used.
Do you wanna look at this?
No, I just want the experts that deal with this every day and that deal with historic districts to look at it, that's all. So if you wouldn't mind leaving those samples in my office so that I can email them all and tell them to come and take a look at it, that would be great.
Sure, I dropped off 14 packets for everybody, so, I don't
Yeah,
know
but
if
they
they've
like
gotten
to
it.
see the
I
original
know they do.
texture and
I
the
know.
actual materials themselves.
Because I think this, when you look at them in comparison, I think there is a big difference in the,
Well, I'm not against the gray, but I would like to know about the bands, and I would like to know if there was any way we could get the red in the texture. You're saying it's not available, but maybe you could just double check on that.
I'll double
Connie.
check, but,
Thank you, I appreciate it. And then we'll see we'll defer also to the ARB and the landmarks and see what they think.
and if you could just ask the architects also about those two bands, what was the
Absolutely.
reasoning
You
for,
ask them their reasoning, 'cause
for doing that, and then,
I think it looks much, me personally, and I agree with Laura, but me personally with the gray, I like the gray, cause it's New England theme.
right,
I sorta like it without the accent of the band, cause I think that gives it more height, to be honest with you. Seeing it broken up like that, but.
and I just have the question about the full white in the front and the full white in the back, if there's any way to,
the band in gray maybe?
anything,
Just to break it up a little
just to
bit?
break it up visually a little bit, so
Sure.
because it looks like a big white building on Main Street there, and in the back, you have the band there, you have the little gray at top, is there any way, I know that it's white around the side, I don't know how you would,
With the cornice detail, it's the same color, but it stands out, so you have a shadow effect.
Yeah,
Here, you have no
that's-
shadow effect
Right,
of the
see,
banding.
cause it looks gray up here.
Correct.
But it's not.
But it's
yeah.
not, you're just getting the shadow effect, here you can.
Exactly.
Just
Cornices,
as-
with the
and those
building.
are the same in the red and the white, right? Those
Mhm.
didn't,
Yes.
that didn't change. Okay, thank you, Connie.
Yeah,
I just want to clarify, you want me to forward the plans to the ARB and the LPC?
That would be great.
And then come back again?
and landmarks preservation, so it's advisory for the ARB,
I believe
Sure.
it's advisory for the fall.
okay.
No, it's not.
And how does it work with landmarks preservation if it wasn't a landmark building?
It's, landmarks preservation has jurisdiction over
Because it's the
historic
hor-
districts.
Historic
So
district.
wherever the historic
Right.
districts are in the town as depicted on the map, then they have jurisdiction over that. And they are not just advisory, so.
I don't know, we've gotten, they aren't, all I know is we went to them at
We'll get,
least a
we'll
half
get
a
an
dozen
opinion
times.
from Bob, if you could give us an opinion on that, because Jody's saying they're more than advisory, what their role is exactly, in determining the final decision.
Yeah, I actually don't dislike this one.
Connie, these are heavy.
I said, they're very heavy.
So this, so,
Which one do you like better,
so
Mr.
Bob,
Murphy?
this is,
advisory, we're gonna run.
so Bob, this is considered a site plan,
We're doing an amendment to site plan?
Yes.
okay,
Alright.
Cause it wasn't approved, shown on the approved plan one way, and now it requires, it's gonna be different, requires an act by you to change it. It's just a resolution, not a public hearing.
Not a public hearing, alright. I know that, one of our more recent projects, we talked about park and rec fees with these type of projects. I'm not sure what the board's flavor is on that. And I
So-
wasn't really prepared for this, so I know this popped up first thing this morning, so.
so is this, so how does that work? Was that addressed in the original site plan, or?
It wasn't requested. In the
That
original
was-
site plan, park and rec fees.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Typically
it
done
was not.
for single-family homes and such.
Right.
I know it's been brought up with the other buildings down there, so I think it's something that the board needs to take a look at,
Well, the
as we
board-
move
The board
forward.
may feel it's not appropriate, that's the decision by the board.
Well, it may be something
you
we
have to
might
do
have to
some
look at, I
analysis.
don't think I think it's a little, I think it's not now, not
Right, I
not
think
this
it's something,
project.
right, I think it's something that we need to take a look at as we move forward, because,
On another project, not this one.
Well, we've done, we've
no, I
done,
think it's something the board has to discuss,
Yeah.
because that's
we've done
what
four
was brought up.
projects we didn't do any with four, I don't think we did it with Conic Crossing, or with Summerwind, or with, Woolworth Building, we haven't
Yeah, I
done
mean-
But the code does call for it.
And it seems like there should be a benefit to the town.
But Jeff, does the code call for?
benefit to town of bringing
Chapter
walkable, livable community, that's the benefit to the
Has,
town.
some language which talks about as part of site plan, and specifically 301, 304D. But again, it wasn't requested with the original.
With the
site
original
plan.
site plan on this
No.
project?
That's right.
Okay.
And just so you know, I mean, from the time the approval from the town board, obviously, we need a 16-week window from the time we order for delivery, so we don't wanna hold
Okay,
up
so what
that.
is the schedule on this?
We're moving actually faster than we anticipated.
good, yeah.
We're really
You've got
doing
good weather, I mean, there's
Don't-
been a
don't
great
say
winter, so,
anything.
Well, March isn't done yet.
We have, and, you can see the framing's going up, and the windows are on order, they'll be coming in soon. And, once the windows go in, then, obviously the brick, so we're trying, you'll see the north and the south are slowly meeting. I was just telling Tim, it's really interesting how it just comes to meet, but, it's not it's a difficult site to build on, the land
you're
over there.
lucky, you're lucky you have the place next door for
I'm
staging.
gonna tell you, I don't know how anybody would do it without it. Even, I said to the developer next door, I said, whoo, you're gonna have a tough time doing it, because the staging is critical. You can do it, but it'll take a
It
lot
requires
longer.
a lot of
A lot of maneuvering,
yeah.
because, you can see what the trucks and the work, it's quite interesting on what goes into these buildings.
I think one of the things that we have to be conscious of moving forward also is that as we get into the warmer season, I know that they're using some of the parking lot and to park off-site.
I've already addressed it.
Okay.
I was at the meeting the other day and I said to the guys, the weather's gonna get nice, you gotta park elsewhere.
Because I think the last time we staged people up over by, when they were doing construction on, Roanoke, that up by
Yes.
the,
Third Street.
yeah,
Yes,
and I
yes.
think that maybe
That's
if
where we
you,
told them.
okay, and if maybe we could
And
arrange.
then we'll have a car to transport them back and forth. Yeah,
Okay.
they will be moving.
Okay,
I addressed that. That's the first thing I saw.
okay, yeah,
I said, the weather's getting nice, guys. It's
Yeah.
time to walk.
yeah.
Well,
Park
you're
on
going
the
to-
building.
and
Park
And
on the
you're going to
building.
email you'll have Carissa email to the ARB?
I'll actually do like a formal, referral to the ARB and the LPC.
Okay, they met,
Okay.
they just met last night.
I know
That's
it. I
kinda
was
my
hoping-
concern.
And now
I was
the
hoping to
landmarks
get
Monday.
to both of them Monday and Tuesday, but, Monday and Wednesday, but, you know, Dave wanted to address this to the town board first, because obviously if you all weren't, you know, in favor of a change, you know, we weren't gonna go any further, because like Dave said, he'll stay with the red. He just thinks it's gonna be better for the town to go to the gray, and, you know, like I said, it's costing him more money, but, you know, he's been very willing to.
Well, it's part and parcel with the Preston House and with
Yeah,
and the softer
exactly.
colors of the Howell
Yeah.
House, and Megano put softer colors on
Uh-huh.
it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get it. I'm not a big fan of the red brick.
Well, I'd like to see what the ARB and landmarks say, and I hope maybe we can even bump it up or something if we have to, but, cause I think the ARB doesn't meet again till towards the end of March.
We just met, yep.
We just met last night, but I did talk to them a
But we
little
can do this just through resolution?
Yes.
They will come,
They were pretty good. They met even with us
Right,
when they didn't have a scheduled meeting. We came down
that's what I'm
and
saying, we
they
might
were
be able to do that.
they were very good in accommodating with that.
When does Landmarks meet again?
we met Monday,
Okay,
So
so
they
it's the
both
last
just-
Monday
So
of
it's
every
the end
month.
of March, and that's kinda really
so
pushing
maybe
it.
if you could, you know, fill everything out, if both of you
Well,
could ask that they could
maybe-
meet.
When
I
is the
just sent an
next,
email to,
You know what, I
ARB,
think might be
so-
good,
Joint
Jody,
meeting.
maybe we could do a joint meeting,
Okay, yeah, that's
cause
probably a good idea.
sometimes it's difficult when there's two different.
I
Maybe we can
definitely
coordinate.
recommend that
Yeah.
even going forward, there should be joint meetings, because it's very difficult. You get, one group says one thing, the other group, and then you gotta go back and forth,
And you'll
back
be
and
able to
forth.
be, if they are able to schedule a meeting, you'll be able to come for the presentation for that?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
I think one of the requests for that is, you were saying, is just, you have the brick, but also maybe a bigger, like,
I'll
even
get
on two things, but
I'll
the
get
bigger
two.
picture so people
That
can
would
see
be
it a little
great.
bit
I'll get
more
two
in depth.
boards.
Yeah.
I'll have two boards made.
Okay, very
Okay.
good,
Very good.
Okay,
we have a plan.
okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Can you put
Sounds
the
good.
stuff in your office, Jody?
Do you want me to leave it, or just
yeah,
bring it
cause
back?
you know what, town hall is usually open longer than your office, if people need to stop by after work, then I can
Do
meet
you wanna put it
them.
in Karen's office or directly in yours?
In my office, because your department closes at 4:30, a lot of people don't get off work till 5, so I
You
would
mean
wait
the
here for them.
referral?
No, I
no,
think,
no,
no,
aren't you
I
gonna write
think
up
if
a-
we put it in Karen, the town board coordinator's office, that's,
Just to
would
give you more
work well.
space, it's up to you.
Then, that's what we did.
Whichever, that's fine.
Should use the
And
4:30
then
mark to
ARB
go
and landmarks can
I don't
pop
care,
by.
I'll leave them whoever,
Feeling
because they're
very
really heavy.
agreeable these days, so, sure.
Really heavy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Connie.
Thanks, Connie.
Wow,
Connie, do
pretty
they
good,
have a date?
27 minutes,
Do they have a
that's
date
not
when they
bad.
think they're gonna finish the whole project?
Originally, it was January of 20, okay? And we're kinda taking bets. Some are saying March, and some are saying June.
Okay.
But, I know Dave is pushing for March, the
June when,
latest.
like
Next-
6 months from now?
No, I wish. You know, because the interest, on the rentals has been phenomenal. I mean, I can't go any place where I'm not stopped
Mhm,
and asked, can I put my name on the list?
mhm.
So, I think in the long run, it's gonna really work out really well,
Okay, very good.
okay?
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, next we have the upcoming Water District capital projects, where we have,
Yeah, I guess that's all.
you wanna come up? Tom, are you gonna fill in for Mark?
This would be the red part, and it's bold and has a lot of white in it.
John, is Bill Rothar? Oh, I didn't even see you, Bill, come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, Collins,
I don't know if we have. Just-
Yes, is this it? No.
No, I don't think we have copies. You guys have copies?
Yeah.
I'll take
Have
one.
it, Joe?
I'll take one.
No, if I brought files for everything we discussed at work session, you wouldn't be able to see me.
And then we have to give some for the press.
I just came here and
Oh, yeah, you handed me this yesterday.
yes, I did.
You did love it.
All right.
3,313,000.
Who would like to start?
You looking at me?
Yeah, we're looking at you, John.
Alright, well, we're here, to talk about 3 projects, that were for the water district that were on our 10-year plan, that we had presented previously. These.
I'm just gonna, Bill, do you have a copy of that the 10-year plan?
You know what, I apologize, I left the copies, I'll just make, I brought
Okay,
one of them.
just so everybody has reference when we're talking to them, I think it might be easier.
Sure. I don't remember the exact numbers that these were, but these represent, 3 projects. One is the installation or redrill of a well over at Plant 2, which is on the corner of, Pulaski and, Columbus. The second is a rehabilitation of Plant 4, which is on Osborne Avenue. And by rehabilitation, we mean, new roof, new electrical service, and a new, lime system for, pH control. And then the third project would be the test well program. Part of that test well program is installing some monitoring wells for USGS, which we had, previously, contracted with them. And part of our contract was to install 4 test wells so they can map the saltwater, freshwater interface.
So these are the ones that they've identified through what they're doing? How, can you explain that a little?
Yes.
How's that?
Over the past year and a half, I would say, they've been going out and they have a piece of equipment that they put on the ground, usually typically in like a farm field, and they're able to, depending on how far out they can go, they can map approximately where they think the saltwater, brackish water and freshwater levels are.
Okay.
So what these monitoring wells would do is we're gonna put them in 4 strategic locations, and we're gonna actually drill down about 700 feet in a PVC conduit, so they can drop a probe down there, and that probe will be able to help them get.
Mr. Council, just need to speak a little louder
Sure.
or
Every time.
audio man.
I think there's one right
Oh.
there.
We know who the soft talkers are. I'm one of them.
So anyway, that probe will be able to help them better locate
I'm
it.
sorry, just a second. John, do we have the original list from Water that had the projects listed over the 10-year?
I believe I do.
Okay, if you could just print that up, thank you.
So anyway, that'll just help them better locate that saltwater, freshwater interface. From there, we're gonna use that data to locate 2 new supply wells for the Riverhead Water District. So we're not dealing with that chloride issue again.
Well, number 2, 2A is gonna be the new well on project 1.
Yes, sir.
Well, number 2, how old is that?
1951,
Oh, okay.
52?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is that like a good span for a lifetime for a well, or?
Yeah, but where that well is, it's iron, so
Right.
that's the only problem.
That's why you're going
And that
down
was
to
always,
300
it
feet now
was always
to-
a secondary well, we only run that in the summertime.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there are things we can do, as far as, we've lost capacity in the well, probably due to the iron. We wanna drive down a little bit deeper to get away from the iron, so that would require a new well. And we're just gonna pull it outside the little existing building that's there, and go down about 300 feet, as opposed to the 150 it's at.
Mhm.
So, did you send out the test well program for an RFP?
No,
So, cause that seems a little high to me, 724,000 for a test well.
it's 2 test wells and 4 monitoring wells.
Okay, so do you think that we should go out for an RFP for that?
We plan on doing, we just haven't
Okay.
done it yet. And then once it comes in, we hope that it's not that much, and, it's lower, yes.
So do we.
Yeah, and I voted no for the USGSA, but
Okay.
I'm just curious as to where that was in the contract that required us to move forward with this type of expenditure.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the contract,
Yeah.
but,
Cause I mean, if finding a new well location is what we're looking for, to me, it doesn't make sense to go to the place where we know we have the problem and test,
you're
cause we know we have a problem,
understood.
so we should be looking somewhere else, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that other list, John? Okay.
What do you think about that, Tom? Do you think we need to go to a different location, can you find
Well, with the
That
test well
within-
program, they're gonna be able to find,
whether it's good or not?
yeah, whether it's good or not.
Well, the test well program is initially digging new test wells in other locations, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm just confused as to why we're, digging in the locations where we know we have an iron problem or a manganese problem.
For 2A you're referring to? So can you address that?
Well, for 2A, well 1 and well 3 are right across the street at the, water tower at the main plant. In the past, I think in the 90s and late 80s, we drilled 1 and 3 well 1 and well 3 deeper, and we were successful in getting away from the iron. So 2, we're just drilling a little deeper to get away from the iron because we've had good experience with it across the street. As far as the monitoring wells go, it's almost like, I guess it's not 2 different projects, but it is 2 different projects to us. And then the test well program, again, it was all based on what the contract with USGS said, so that's why we were doing it.
I mean, they feel good that Plan 2 getting drilled deeper is gonna get away from the iron.
How deep is it now?
150?
150.
40,
So you'll be able to find clean water.
300 we wanna go, and that's where wells 1A and 3A are about 300 feet.
That makes sense.
So is it more cost effective to just look in the same area then, probably, right?
Well, for 2A, we already have an existing well permit, so it's just modifying the well permit, and we're only gonna move 20 feet outside the building. We already have chemicals there, infrastructure there as far as piping. We have chlorine there, and we have phosphates there, and a building to house it all. So the electrical service is there. So
Everything's there already.
yeah, this just becomes drilling a well, putting in a little enclosure around it, and then we're also gonna add a lime treatment system there, which we don't currently have.
What would be the difference in cost to build a new, to add all that at a new location?
It depends on how deep you have to go, depends on.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
We used to estimate about $1 million a well, now I think it's probably
Closer to 2.
closer to 2, and all depending on what you have to do to get there. How far I have to bring the electric from, how far I have to bring the water from. And that was just for a well, and then now you have to build a building, you have to build lime systems, chlorine systems, phosphate systems, and everything else that goes along with it, so, that 1.5, I would say probably double that, to go to a new location.
To go to a new location?
Yes. That also has some stuff that, again, we're putting in a lime system, because there is no existing lime system at 2, and that'll just raise the pH a little bit.
Thank you.
And then we were also gonna replace some, windows on the existing building, because they're not in very good shape.
Okay. So this is kind of what the board had, reviewed as we were going, through our capital improvement, so that's kind of what I just wanted to hand out to the board here, I think, is that, can you just pass that down? You know, the project list that we have. So this was the projects that we had, test well program, this is rehab 4, this is the programs that we had slotted for, 2019.
Yep. And even in the estimates, I mean, we're at 2.5 million in the estimates now, we were at 1.5 million in the estimates that were given to us.
Right, our 3.3.
Yeah, it's about 600 grand.
But it's gotta go up for bid, right?
Yes, definitely.
So,
And if we
We'll know what the
determine that we
actual
wanna
is.
do 3 monitoring wells instead of 4, you know, maybe we can talk to the USGS about it.
And then the other question, they're bid all separate, so we can pick and choose out of these 3?
Yes.
Okay, so which is, out of the 3, the priorities?
Well, 2,
Well, 2?
yes.
Okay. And so you were saying if it came over, if we wanted to stay within the 2.6, as we had projected out, the test well program could go down?
We tend to we're trying to estimate a little higher now. You know, prices have been shooting up, escalating, it almost seems like weekly now. And, so yeah, I mean, like Plant 4, there are some things that, you know, that we could eliminate, if we need to stay to stay at that 1.1 right there. With the test well program, again, there are things that we can do, work with USGS to say, you know, we're a little bit over budget, we're only gonna give you 3 wells instead of 4, and, they've been very easy to work with to date, so I'm sure that they'll work with us.
And for the manganese filtration system, that gets bumped up to where? That's in the 220, Bill?
that's in the money that we just did bond authorization for, right?
Right, but we have 10 years to bond that up.
Manganese.
The manganese.
That's
Where are we
3
bu-
million, cause we
Plan
got the
5.
grant for 7, and then we got the, or
Well,
we got the grant for 3,
three.
and then we got the,
That's all we have for that one. So Bill, if you could just go through the numbers, because they're requesting the test well, redwell 2, rehab 4, and we have the manganese filtration system that we're bumping up.
Okay.
So we need to just map this out again, with the change in what they're requesting.
Right, so I have,
You don't have to give it to us right now, but to
I
report
just wanna
back.
make sure I have the right new numbers for these, so I have
All right, so plant,
489
project-
for well 2.
project 456, right?
Okay.
The chart they just gave us here, the summary for water district projects for the, project 456, right? Originally, when we had done this, the total for that was 2.6. Now, project 11 for the manganese, we know we're bumping up, because we got the $3 million grant for that, and then we have to do the match on that. So we need to bump that up with our, projected tables.
Okay.
I think one of those projects may have to get bumped down a little bit to the following year, but we'll see when Bill runs his numbers.
Yeah, we work with Bill, so we're gonna do it as, you know, when he says we can do it, we can do it.
Okay.
I mean, Plan
So-
4 is critical too, though, but.
Plan 4 isn't even, I mean, it's not even on here, so, right?
Yeah,
It
plan-
says project number 2, but there's no
Plan-
number for it.
It's 6,
Rehab.
project 6.
Rehab Plan
No,
4.
I have it on this, but this is not on their proposal that they're giving us today, what they wanna work on. They wanna work on plant number 2 today.
But the second one is plan 6. The second one is plan 4, I'm sorry. That's the 1.1.
Yep.
So so in the order of priority of these three
It's not
That's
tested.
the way they all listed.
is the way they're listed?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this says plant number 4,
yes.
and this is not test wells.
Oh, no,
So
okay.
this
Yeah,
says-
yeah, it doesn't,
Test well program
yes, and then.
for the 1.1.
I mean, other than bumping up the manganese filtration system,
And
we realize
this
you have
test
to
well
do
program.
because we got the grant for
Okay,
that.
so this should say,
Is
th-
this
so then this is
project
not, we're not
pretty
doing
much in
this now,
priority
right?
list, or
We're doing
Yes,
number now.
yes, yes.
That's what we're here to ask them to do.
Why doesn't this say?
One of the caveats when this priority list was made is that if we were able to get, some grant money for something,
You could-
that we could bump
could
something
elevate
up,
something.
prior to that.
It's confusing, I guess, the way it's written out.
I would
So
do
we're
Because
that.
it would
working on
say,
this list still,
project
except for
number
the
1,
manganese.
project number
Yeah.
2, project number 3.
Manganese.
Yes, I would ignore the project numbers.
So what's,
And then,
Okay.
is there,
no, yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're just confused by the project numbers on this.
And which project was related to what cost?
okay. Okay.
I should have, when I wrote this, lined up the project numbers.
Yeah, I think we should continue to do that
Yes.
as we're going forward. Well, let's use this as the reference sheet, because I think this then goes back to our ability to fund all of it. So these all need to stay in order so that we continue on the, you know, there was a lot of work put into this, and I think in order for this not to be not a useful document, we need to stay in line with it.
I'll be available next year to paint this out.
That's good.
What color are you gonna paint it?
I'll be there to secure your,
Somebody's gotta tell me you missed a spot.
Now, does the GIS, are they coming in to report off at all? Like, will they come in for an update? What's going on?
USGS?
USGS, I'm sorry.
They will. They're not allowed to publish preliminary data.
Okay,
It's like a rule from the federal government. They can only present on what is published.
okay,
So, we've seen like some very preliminary data from them, but they always take it with them and they never leave it with us.
okay.
So, we could set up something where they can give us a preliminary review of what they found,
Okay,
but they're gonna take the data with them.
okay,
And
that's,
it wouldn't be at a public session,
okay.
yet, until
Okay.
they publish the data.
Do they have any date, any date where they feel like they're gonna publish? Is it coming up soon, or is it,
They haven't
we
even
have no
completed
clue.
their investigation yet,
Okay.
so.
okay? And then as far as the testing for our wells, just for the public, as far as I know, a lot of people are concerned about the PFAS, PFOA, 1,4-dioxin. Can you just explain how we test our wells and if we have found anything, and if we would find anything, what would we do?
We actually just sampled the last couple of days, all the wells except for plant 15, because the tank's getting
Just
done.
need to talk louder here, sorry.
We just tested all our wells except for plant 15. The sample results should be out in about 2 weeks.
Okay,
And hopefully it's under the limit.
mhm,
If not, then you'd need filtration and
Then
we'd
we'll
be,
probably
we'd be,
scrap this whole
yeah, we'd be
conversation.
coming back here for a lot more money.
But they were just tested not that long ago,
Yes.
and there was no indication that
Yes.
it was there, so.
Yeah, yes, we're hoping, we're hoping.
okay.
All right, good.
Yeah,
But they
everything-
are, but I just wanna let people know,
Yeah.
because I think people are very concerned about this, that they're constantly tested and they're
Yes.
monitored, and if there is any indication that anything is present, then the appropriate steps are
Within
taken.
the last week, all the wells except for plant 15, because the
Okay.
tank's being built there right now.
Okay,
the water
so it's,
was
then we're
off.
not using, it's offline?
Yes.
Okay,
As soon as that's back up, hopefully today or tomorrow, we'll be sampling that well.
okay, very good.
All right, good.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Keep it flowing.
Have a good day.
thank you.
Okay, and Eric, right?
Do you wanna move on to the next one, or do you wanna wait
Yeah,
for yours?
sure.
Okay.
Move on to the next one.
So we'll just come out of order here a little bit. We have possible changes to flood insurance rate maps. I believe this is the coastal barrier, information.
You wanna mention
Yeah,
the
we just-
program the other night?
We just went, wait,
You saw the abbreviated version last week, this is.
oh,
Just wait till you sit down, otherwise we're gonna get,
yeah, wait till you sit down.
Feedback?
but,
Hey, Barney.
Who's Barney? Got skipped over.
Oh, am I not here?
We're waiting for Eric too,
Oh,
so,
yeah.
but you're gonna be next. This is gonna be
All
quick.
right, sorry.
this is, we had received, some information about a public hearing coming up, last week, so we had, asked Jeff and, Bob to review, to present to us if there was anything that we needed to, do prior to that, hearing, or any responses that we needed to make. And I'll let you guys, I know you guys have gone through this, I'll let you do the overview.
Yeah, there's, we received the letters and they directed us to a link with a video. There was supposed to be a presentation, but due to the federal shutdown, it didn't occur. This involves the Coastal Barrier Resources Act and the Coastal Barrier Resources System. They were created and established in 1982. Congress enacted the law to start the Coastal Barrier Resources Act, and was signed into law by President Reagan. When he signed into law, he made the announcement that, this is a national problem, but it's gonna involve less federal involvement. Therefore, the federal government's not gonna pay for those areas that get
Well, they're
established.
gonna tell you where they're not gonna pay.
So presently, there's, according to their website, 870 of these units around the country, 23 states, US territories, and they encompass about 3.5 million acres. There's two types of units. There's a system unit and what they call an otherwise protected area, which is OPAs. In 2013, an OPA, the distinction between the system units and the OPA units is that there's a P at the end of the unit to differentiate between the system unit and the OPA unit. 2013, Sandy came along, and as a result of that, there was a mapping project that was put into place. 9 states were impacted: Delaware, Maine, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland, New York, but only Long Island, Rhode Island, and Virginia. They were broken down into 2 batches. The first batch has already been done. The public comment period has been concluded, and that was affecting Delaware, Maine, New Hampshire, and New Jersey. The current batch, which is batch 2, the comment period closes April 17th of this year. We have 5 of these units within the town of Riverhead, and starting from the sound side with the Brookhaven borderline, working our way easterly, and then looping back through the Peconic waterfront. They are as follows. The first is unit NY18, which is the Wading River Creek area, and that encompasses the shore and plant. The second is NY 19, which is the Bating Hollow Wetlands, which is where the Boy Scout camps, which is now the New York State TBC land. The next is,
What number was that?
that was 19. Then there's 20P, which is an OPA, and that's Loose Landing, and that's Iron Pier in the associated undeveloped wetlands, and they refer to them as fast lands, which we would call uplands. Then there's Unit 34. Now, so we leave the sounds, we go to the bay, and that's East Creek, which is Unit NY 34. And then last but not least is Unit NY 35, which is Indian Island County Park. I think Jeff has already handed out some information to you. He also has the summaries of what the proposed impacts will be with each of these designations. Not on 18, the proposal is to take out the plant, Shoreham plant, and they're going to add parts of the salt marsh owned by the Nature Conservancy, as well as the Suffolk County property along Wading River Creek. The proposal, if it goes through, will result in additional acreage. Currently, there's 237 acres. It'll bump up to 244. So there's 7 additional acres that'll be added. So there's a removal, and then there's addition. And again, the summaries that we have for you, and I also have extra copies if anybody wants them, lay it out very simple and very easy, and you can go right to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife website to look at them yourself. 19, which is the Bating Hollow wetlands, that will result in a reclassification. Because that's New York State DEC-owned lands, and there's no private properties involved, the proposal is to change that from NY19 to NY19P. The existing unit, which is 22 acres, will be reclassified, and then they're going to add some additional land, so that total will bump up to, I'm sorry, I've jumped down one. The reclassified area is presently 54 acres, and the proposed OPA will go up to 59 acres. With regard to Iron Pier, which is unit NY20P, it'll remain classified as an OPA, but they're going to add some portions of Iron Pier Beach, the adjacent wetlands, as well as some of the uplands. So the amount there will go from 22 acres to 29 acres, or an increase of 7 acres.
Is that public land that it's including, or is that private land that it's?
All public, and it is for currently designated an OPA.
Okay, so they're just, they're adding additional acreage?
They're adding some additional acreage.
Can I just ask you, on these, the dotted line is what they're increasing it to,
Yes,
or?
that is
okay.
the change, yep.
Yeah. And what the underlying differentiated color is what exists today.
What exists today, okay.
Correct. Unit NY 34, which is our East Creek location. And I know that Councilwoman Giglio raised this concern at the last meeting. You'll be happy to know that 7 private structures or residences, which are along Peconic Bay Boulevard, Doug's, 4th Street, and Tuts, are coming out. So they're gonna take those out of consideration.
Okay.
But the bad news is 2 town structures, which I think are our bathing house and our, maybe our gazebo or our gym, are now gonna be included.
So is there any documentation saying that they're gonna be taking the private residences out?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's what I just handed
Yes.
out, Jody.
Yes.
Okay, so that
Yes.
this is a change to this original proposal, or what they had originally come
It-
out with?
As it exists today, if this is adopted without any changes, those private residences, private structures are no longer going to be part of that unit.
So everything west of East Creek, where they had all those houses on that whole row, that's all coming out of?
Coming out.
So if there were any storms and they needed FEMA
they could
resources,
get
they
that.
would be eligible for them?
Correct.
They will come out of that, that's correct.
Bating Hollow wetlands, are they in here?
Yes.
That's unit
Which-
19, NY 19. And as indicated, that's gonna change to an OPA. And it's gonna be bumped up a little bit, the area's gonna be increased.
Now, the one thing, in addition,
Sure.
with the exception of Iron Point, Beach,
I don't have
Iron Pier,
19 in here, by the way.
the,
Because they're probably increasing the area, they're not taking anything away than what's already covered.
with the exception of Iron Pier, this is interesting, the entirety of what exists today was petitioned at the request of the town board back in 1993. We made the request to have these properties designated.
And do you know what the reasoning for that was?
I do not, I'd have to go back and check the town records back in 1993. and the.
Was it a-
For Marina or something, they
Was
wanted
it
to
a
go.
town request or just,
was
we didn't put in a response?
It says based upon a request from the town of Riverhead.
Okay. Could we just,
And-
So we did put in a response.
And, the reason why you see a lot of these changes is that when we made the request and included the mapping for it, it included private property, or it was property that was not owned by the town, which we cannot do. So this mapping exercise is correcting that and taking out the non-town owned facilities and property. So that's the reason why you're seeing a lot of these changes.
Thank you.
my, one other question I had is some of it, the difference between SU and otherwise protected area, because this does affect our ability to apply for grants for some of our public areas, correct?
Well, as the legislation says, it does not restrict any private, local, or state-funded development. So we are able to still receive money from the state, and it does not impact that at all. So state funding is still available. And of course, if it's an OPA, there's less restrictions. It does limit the impacts if it's an OPA as opposed to an SU, a system unit.
So, but with an OPA, can you apply for federal under the OPA? Like if you had to have the Army Corps of Engineers or something?
The only thing I saw that it was, according to that slideshow that we were directed to, is that the OPA designation with the P would only prohibit the flood insurance.
Correct.
As a federal spending prohibition, so the other prohibitions would be not present. So the OPA allows for greater flexibility. So I guess with respect to East Creek, since they've now limited it totally to town-owned lands, and which are recreation or
If you look on page 8.
Conservation areas, we should, I would think, make a request that they be considered to be reclassified.
As OPA?
Correct.
Yeah, I would agree, this just gives us more flexibility moving forward. So Iron Pier is already OPA, correct?
That's correct.
And Creek Road is already OPA, that area over there is already OPA, so the only one that we have that is not OPA.
No, actually, the,
East Creek is not.
Can we petition for OPA?
Wading River Creek, East Creek are not.
So can we petition for all of our public lands to be, I mean, can we, make the comment that we would like them all
Well,
to be?
19 we can't, 18 we can't because there's lands that are owned by other than the town. You
But
got
it's
the
part
Nature
of-
Conservancy and you have
Okay.
others, so I don't.
But we have that one little sliver there, don't we, that's right by the creek there?
And part of the responses when you go through this is, for example, with 35, which is NY 35, that's Indian Island.
That's county.
They made mention that the town had originally made, a
Yeah,
request,
request.
but since it's all county-owned, they're now changing that to an OPA as well.
Okay, so can we?
So that's, because it's county-owned lands.
Now,
So
to
whatever
change-
is ours that is town-owned property, can we request, put in that we would like them to be considered as OPAs?
We can, we'd have to go back to the 1993 request and see why we did it,
Okay,
and see if we can find that request, and see what conditions have changed as to why we, why it
okay,
was included. Now, the only thing is to change any of these requires an act of Congress. It's not a staff mapping
Forget it,
exercise by
let
the
it get
state.
done.
It's an act of Congress.
okay.
So that kills that.
Well, not necessarily, I mean, well, let's find out in 1993 why it was changed over. It does prohibit us for dollars, they are in the process of changing some of these things. This whole process is, once it is determined, how is this enacted?
I think back in '93, there was a big push to create some sort of a marina down there with using the pond off of Iron Pier, and it got a lot of pushback from the community, and I think a lot of it, forethought was, let's protect that area, so we don't have that.
We have until April 17th of this year to get our comments in.
But my question is, when this final document is enacted, who enacts it?
Congress.
So if they put in our recommendations, will it have to be a separate act of Congress, or can it be included within this document when Congress adopts it?
I'm sure,
My
That's
understanding
kind
is
of-
it'll require another act by Congress, because in '82, when this was originally adopted, they then had additional acts that followed. For example, in '90, it was the Coastal Barrier Improvement Act, which was listed, and which created those areas at that time. 93 was another, piece of legislation which reclassified them, so it was, my understanding or my belief is that once we make these comments, it's gonna be brought back to Congress, and they're going to formally put all the changes that are not only affecting our town, but the entire batch 2 into place.
Right, so then that would be the act that would,
The whole eastern seaboard and the Great Lakes.
right, but if we have our comments in there, they adopt our comments when they, because
they
this,
adopt our
if
comments.
if they adopt our comments, the, having it go through Congress would go through the, like, this is the 1990 was Coastal Barrier Improvement Act, this is the Coastal Barrier Report System Remapping Project. So
Right.
once they do their remapping projects, if they agree with what we've requested, if they do incorporate it in there, then when this remapping project is put before Congress, our changes would come through that, correct? Or is
Through
that?
Congress, yes.
Through Congress?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so,
So I would recommend that we send a copy of our comments to Congressman Zeldin and let him know that we are, responding to this Coastal Barrier Resources System remapping project, and that this is what we would like to see, seeing as he represents our district.
Again, we'll dig out the 1993,
1993.
see what happened back then, but, and then, I think that, you know, we put some comments together for the review of the board and bring it back to you guys.
Yep,
Good.
and then once we decide
See you
this is
tomorrow.
what we wanna do, and it would be helpful to have the maps too. I mean, I know you gave us one of the maps here showing,
Yeah, they can be posted on the website, but it doesn't affect private property, except for.
Actually, Bob, just as a summary for the viewers, can you just shoot through this list and identify the exact area, starting with NY 18, 'cause I didn't
When you
have
say
this.
the exact area, you
Well,
mean?
just like, we've got East Creek, we've got
Right.
the wetlands of Bating Hollow,
I
so
Okay.
wrote them down.
NY 18 is.
NY 18 is the Wading River Creek
And the Shoreham
Salt
plan.
Marsh area, Shoreham. And the existing coastal barrier resource map can be found at page 104A on the U.S. Fish and Wildlife System. There are, if you, I'm trying to see if I
Okay,
can.
and NY 19
Do you
is the
ca-
wetlands.
What we can do is.
if,
we
just
can
give us
post it
the
on website.
links, yeah, give us the links, we can post it on the
The
website.
packet I gave you was a
Okay,
really
but
nice
actually,
summary.
this is a 1-minute thing,
Yeah,
let me
go
just finish here. So NY 19 is the wetlands?
Boy Scout
of Bating
camp.
Hollow?
That's
I'm
correct.
asking them.
Correct.
He
Correct.
gave it to us already, and I wrote
Yep.
it down, so that's why I
Okay,
was just
well, I
telling you.
didn't have the right book.
Yep.
And then NY 20 is,
NY 20 is Iron Pier,
okay,
or Luce's Landing, as it's referred to in the Coastal Barrier Resource System.
Yeah, I saw that.
then East Creek, of course.
East Creek is, now we're on the
Okay.
Peconic Bay side, so we've come from the sound to NY 34, which is East
Okay.
Creek, correct?
And then Indian Island.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
So we have a totality of 5.
And Bob, could you just explain again, just the difference between the system units and the otherwise protected area? What effect does it have being one versus the other?
System unit prohibits all federal spending.
34 was,
OPA, the only restriction is on the flood insurance.
Okay,
According to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife
Yep. Yes, I'm-
webinar document.
so
that
it
you
would
can
give
go
us
to.
more flexibility if we would apply for
36,
grants and doing
76,
projects moving forward.
It would
um,
seem
or-
to, you know, open it up more, yes.
Okay, and that would be the reason for requesting that.
And that would be, and again, I think that the reclassification makes sense. The OPAs are generally considered to be recreation and conservation areas as opposed to privately owned areas. So the classification from SU, system unit, to an OPA would seem to have some sense and logic. So again, we don't know what happened in '93, we don't know what the request was
Yeah.
back then, but of course it included private lands,
Right,
so,
Which we're not allowed to do.
right.
okay, all
All right.
right, very good, thank you very
Okay.
much. Nice job on this.
Good job.
It's for the press. Yeah, thank you, Sinead. You may have the same thing ready, but just in case.
Okay,
guys.
thank you.
Okay.
We'll move on to rentals in manufactured homes. Jody, I will turn this over to you. You have Rich Downs
Yeah.
and Eric Howard here.
So part of the problem is that some of the parks are allowing units to be brought in by owners and then rented out, and those rentals are not coming in for rental permits. So this puts a little bit more of the registry requirement as to which ones are owner occupied and which ones are rentals on the property owner, so that code enforcement doesn't have to try and seek out who's owning and who's renting in the parks. We're getting a lot of complaints from people that live within the parks that the owners move the units in, and they live there for a month, and then they move out, and then a whole group of new people move in, and those people, there's no rental permit on file for that particular unit, so
So this is somebody renting the space in a mobile home park, bringing
renting the
their,
manufactured home.
but the unit is already currently there? Or they're
Yes.
bringing in a new unit?
Yep, or they're bringing in a new unit, so.
Okay.
And Eric came up with a very creative way of addressing it, so I'll let
So,
him
can I-
explain that now.
Can I just ask, typically, our mobile home parks here are owner occupied, the manufactured home person owns the unit themselves, but not the land underneath, is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
So, and most of the units are owner occupied in our mobile home parks, or are a lot of them rented by the, person who owns the park itself to somebody?
It depends. Sometimes you have parks
Glenwood
that
is
have.
all owner occupied.
Yeah, Glenwood, sometimes you have parks that have a lot of rental units within them.
And the
Depends on the park.
And the rental units tend to be rented by the owner of the unit themselves or by the park owner?
It's a mix.
It's a mix. Yes,
Okay.
it is a complete mix.
So-
Any more questions?
Yeah, so there's no, like, each park that you go to, there's not one set, okay, like, this Park A, all the owners own the units, and the person who manages the park or owns the park, has no owned units in there, or it's all of them are pretty mixed?
It would be
Yeah.
sort of the determination by the owner of
The park.
the park.
Okay,
Right, because
so-
the
That's
parks
how they wanna
existed.
Oh, you guys
prior-
gotta talk up a little bit.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Here's a mic, yeah, you're always,
The parks existed prior to our zoning, so some of them are 80-20, where it's 80 have to be 55 and over, 20 can be family units, but we have no idea of knowing, and the parks are supposed to report to HUD on an annual basis as to what the makeup of the park is. So we're basically just going to be asking that for that information here at the town, so we know which ones are rented and which ones are owner occupied.
so, but the 80-20, our parks are 80-20?
Some of them are, most of them are.
I mean-
Like Riverhaven is, Lakewood is, it's 80 seniors, 55 and over, and 20 family. So
But 80-20 refers to the affordability, not the age.
80% of the units are 55 and over, 20% of the
A
units
portion of
are
they can go to family.
family.
We don't deal with,
I don't know if it's
that
exact.
part.
Yeah,
so,
all right, so
Right,
do we
yeah,
have,
that's
who monitors that?
HUD,
Okay, so that wouldn't be in our code,
That's
that's
not in
HUD,
the-
that's, so that's not us,
It's
okay,
not in
okay,
the
all right, so that's not, okay, okay,
And certain parks have their own bylaws regarding 55 and over,
Right.
and they enforce those privately.
okay.
Right, well, that's
We
not
don't-
our concern. Our concern is that there might be some units that are being bought and rented and we don't know about them. Is that the problem?
Sub-rented,
So we gotta get some sort of registry here that when people are renting, or be aware of who's renting out their
Right.
trailers,
Cause,
mobile homes, or
'cause our
truck, whatever you
first-
wanna call them.
our first point of contact sometimes is the office manager. And if we go to the office manager in cases where we're knocking the door and the tenant, just not forthcoming and giving us any information at all. So our second point of contact would be going to the office manager, and, the office manager should have those records ready available for us to, who's staying in the unit.
Right.
Whether or not it has a rental permit filed with them or not.
So-
Just asking them to be a little more responsible.
So the owner of the property itself,
Yes, which would be the mobile home park owner.
because they're allowing the unit to be brought onto the premises. So
Correct.
sometimes the sheriff will do evictions if a unit is dilapidated or not meeting the New York State Building Code, and code enforcement or building department will go out and identify the unit, and then if they don't pay their rent, then the landlord can evict the unit, so they,
but the
File with the sh-
landlord is the owner of the manufactured home.
of the landowner can say, you haven't paid your rent, I'm filing an eviction notice, and the sheriff comes and actually tows the unit
Right,
off the
okay,
property.
okay, so
I know.
that's,
Sticks it
okay,
on
that's,
our road,
okay.
whatever.
Yeah, but that's not really what,
No,
right, that's.
I was just
that's-
answering a
okay,
question.
Gotcha.
Now, I'm just curious,
Yeah.
has this been, a pretty big problem with them renting out their units? Or
We
is there at least
have-
a few isolated
We
incidents?
have had in the past, and there's, without naming names, there are certain parks that have been a little problematic, as of late.
Well, I don't
So-
think it's
but-
complaint driven as much as I mean, the whole idea behind rental permits is that the area that they're renting is somewhat safe, somewhat up to code, somewhat no
Right.
violations. So that's why the rental permits are there, just so we know that somebody's not going to a substandard housing, that's the whole
But my
idea.
question, I
Yeah.
guess my question is the person who owns the manufactured home, no matter what, a renter of the property?
It's,
Like, they're, by the
No.
nature of what this is,
No.
they don't own the land underneath.
But they own,
so
but they
they're
own the
renting-
home that they're renting.
yes.
But no, but I'm saying they're
Unit.
actually renting from the person who owns the property in which the mobile home
They're
park is
renting
located.
the lot.
They're renting the lot, so we're not talking about that
No.
No.
rental,
No, no,
okay,
no, no, no.
okay.
It's the physical
So-
structure that they're renting out, so,
Right.
and the park owners have expressed to me that, hey, you know what, we gave it to John Doe was an owner, we checked the VIN number on his manufactured home, he brought it in, and then 2 weeks later, the neighbors are complaining because there's a family of 5 living in there and it's not the same guy that moved the unit in. So that's why it's important for the owners of the park or the land report to the town which units are rental and which units are owner
Well,
occupied.
that really is the onus of the manager of that park,
Yeah.
or the owner of that park, not
Right.
us to go in and do a.
No, they just have to
That's why
report to
house
us.
search
So
every-
since,
This requirement
Let's
sort of
scale it
allows
back.
us to, sort of impose that little bit of responsibility on them to make sure that they're paying attention to what's
It's
going on.
totally
in
their
the park.
responsibility, right?
Yeah.
so
we are
since
gonna be
we,
leaning on them a little bit, and then they're gonna be taking care of the problem.
right.
That's
Right.
So, so
You got
since
it.
it's come to the attention of the town through the Manufactured Homeowners Task Force, I think we've taken in somewhere close to 24 rental permits in just 2 parks where the units were being rented out and weren't owner occupied. And so it's
That's correct.
in the last 2 years. So it's important that they
Yeah, I'll be
report to
looking
us.
for that one next year.
So what is this doing exactly?
This
Exactly.
essentially requires them to maintain because they're already required to maintain copies of all records pertaining to the maintenance and supervision of their park. So this just says, when you have a unit that has a rental permit, you have to
Gotta
have.
be louder, Eric.
When you have a unit that has a rental permit, you need to maintain a copy of the town rental permit as well, all right? And it's really sort of that simple.
It puts the onus on the office manager, because
Yes.
in the majority of these, manufactured home parks, the landowners are out of state.
Yes,
So
Correct.
they're not on site, they're not here, they're not inspecting, they
Right.
don't really know. So it really comes down to the office manager, the person running the park, to
Correct.
be able to have this information on file, which is what you're
And
making
be able
them
to
do.
provide it to us.
Right.
Also, when we need it.
Correct.
Yes.
So,
Correct.
Yep.
And then in subsection B, it seemed to have been missing mobile home as it only said travel trailer park. So I inserted mobile home park just to kind of bring the whole section
Yeah, that's,
together.
right, politically correct, right, you
Yeah.
can't call them trailers anymore.
trailers anymore.
And I'm just curious, what is the onus, where is the owner of the unit in this?
The owner of the unit is already required to get a rental permit under chapter 263. So this just sort of shifts
And are
or
they
imposes a
also,
little bit of responsibility.
but are they
on the park
also
owner.
required to give the rental permit? If I'm the owner of the property, there should be some onus on me to have to give that rental certificate to the manager, because
that's what
that,
this
That's what
does.
this is gonna
that's
do.
what this, and
Right.
what is the penalty for not doing that?
Well, hopefully that would be between them.
That's gonna be
That
a
would
civil
be-
matter
yeah, that would
between
be
the park
between the
owner.
But
park
shouldn't
owner's
we have,
office
shouldn't
and-
we have, I mean, you have to obtain the rental permit.
Right,
That's a
but what
cost fee.
we would do as an
Cost center.
enforcement body, we would issue a violation to the owner
Owner.
of the actual
Unit,
unit,
okay.
which will force them to come into court and eventually get a rental permit if need be.
But, and now, if I'm the manager of it, and I'm the owner who didn't get a rental permit, and I go to the manager and say, you don't have the rental permit, then what happens?
Well, the manager of the unit, in this instance, the manager of the unit should have a record of the rental permit.
But I didn't get a rental
But
permit.
if they don't, right, if you don't, and neither party does, we could issue a violation to both.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is how,
that's-
because you're gonna
Like
get a lot of
Councilman-
this
yeah.
with the way, I think
that's
there's
what
gotta
gives
be a
you
little
the-
bit more in
Gives us the
here.
ability,
this
To deal with
is-
the manager.
right, to put pressure on the
This-
manager also.
But-
This sort of takes the pointing fingers out of it.
Yes,
That's how I
you're-
started out.
You're
Yeah.
getting a chapter 263 no rental permit violation. You're getting a chapter 249 didn't maintain your records
But how,
the way
how,
that you
what
should
is,
have violation.
so they're obligated to go knock on each door and
they collect
see
the
whether
rent.
it's a rental unit or not, because they could still be getting the rent from the owner, because the owner's getting the rent from the tenant, and then the owner is sending the rent in. I'm just wondering if there's
Correct.
some sort of,
They're
Way to
supposed to be
monitor it.
maintaining a register of the inhabitants or occupants of each unit, you know, the inhabitants of the park or the occupants of each unit. So when they see a unit that has occupants that are different from the person who owns the
so
unit,
every
then
park
they
has a
should
manager
say-
that lives there?
Yes.
You ain't
That-
Sophie,
that is
who are you?
actually a
I never saw
requirement
you
in
before.
this-
What's
in
your
this
name?
ordinance. It's not, you don't have the complete copy of the ordinance, but
Should we put some sort of, day on here? I'm just saying, if they've occupied it more than 30 days, it's the manager's responsibility to do that, because I'm just saying, if you get somebody, they say that they don't have a rental permit, the manager knows somebody else has been living there, and then they can always claim, well, I didn't know that they were renters, I thought it was a cousin, I thought it was a family member, and if they,
You're overthinking it.
well, but if,
I think that would allow wiggle room where those
Yeah, then
sort
you
of
know when the-
circumstances can sort of fall under like prosecutorial discretion when they end up coming to court.
No, the owners of the parks, in their leases, they're supposed to be doing background checks on all the people that live there to make sure they're not sex offenders or drug dealers. They're supposed to be doing, making sure that they have the money to pay the rent, the people that are living there, doing the credit checks and things of that nature. So this is just saying, if you allow a unit to come onto your property and it's being rented, then you have to take out a rental permit. And
That's
we're
all
not
it's
just
saying.
gonna chase
I'm not-
after
who
the
you got
owner
there,
of the
why they're
unit.
there, I don't care, just make sure that it's, just get a rental permit so we know it's being rented.
Right,
And it's safe for people to live there, that's all.
Yeah.
yes,
That's all we give her.
thank you.
I don't care who's living there.
Me either, but if you're renting it, you gotta get a rental.
Might
so
be
what
me
is the
next year,
fine,
you know,
what is
Yeah.
the fine then, what becomes the fine for for the owner of the property? Let's just say I own the property, I rent it out, I have my rental permit, I never give it to the manager there.
never pay your
And
bills,
what
so,
is, when you give a ticket to the manager, what is the fine for not knowing that there's a rental there?
The whole intent is to get them into compliance.
I
So
understand
if they
that,
have a
but-
rental permit and they didn't tell the manager that they have a rental permit with the town, I mean, the manager should know who's living in the unit.
Well, that's a valid point, though, I mean, if you're gonna enact section 4249 to compel an owner, whether it's an owner or manager, to comply with listing, and you're gonna bring them into justice court, there's gotta be some sort of fine sets of.
There's the minimum, that's
is that already-
two
is
fifty.
that-
well,
is
It's
that part
two
of the fine
fifty
schedule?
to 1,000 in the rental
I mean,
permit.
who am I asking this question to?
I know,
Sorry.
I know.
What the hell?
If in that situation, if a unit owner has a rental permit and they haven't provided it to the owner, normally, we're not gonna write a violation to the owner if the permit's there. We would just make sure that they got a copy of it, some way.
but
We're
the-
not gonna,
But why wouldn't
Issue
you?
a
Because that
violation.
makes the owner responsible to give it to the manager, so you have it.
well, we could facilitate that
Just makes your
permit to
job
get-
easier.
Yeah.
It makes your job easier if the owner has the rental permit, they're doing the right thing, and then, you need to know that the manager has that information on file, so I think that they should be responsible for handing it to the manager, because you're holding the manager responsible for having it, but you're not holding the homeowner responsible for providing it to the manager, I
Well, I
think.
think at that
That's
point, it's the
between the
manager's responsibility to get a copy of the
Yeah, right,
permit.
that-
They would have to take
Once-
some
yeah,
civil
once-
litigation.
about that as
Once
long
they
as
see
against
their
the-
register, the occupants are inconsistent with the owner of the unit, they should know rental permit. Where is it?
And most of the parks already do it.
Yeah,
They already,
But
they
but
already do it.
it's the ones that
Yeah.
aren't complying that you're having the problems
There's
with,
a
so I'm just,
couple.
yeah,
There's a
so,
couple.
so the
Yeah.
ones that you're having the problems with, I think there should be some responsibility on the owner if they've obtained the rental permit to provide it to the manager within 30 days of obtaining it.
And just the fact that you're sitting here before us, obviously something triggered this conversation, it didn't come out of the
Yeah.
blue. I'm sure you weren't sleeping and
Yeah.
say, oh my God, trailers, rentals.
I mean, even if it's not a big
it's
big
from the
fine, but,
manufactured homeowners task force. That's where the complaint came from.
Came from
The-
what?
The manufactured homeowners task force.
Task
So,
force.
where there are units within parks that are being rented out and they don't have rental permits. And they're over-occupied or what have you. So, that's where the
So it's
complaint
complaint
came
driven.
from.
Okay.
That's what it's
So it's complaint driven.
addressing.
so,
Right, I get it.
so would in favor of just having, if the owner is renting it out, that when they obtain the rental permit, to have to supply that to the manager within 30 days of obtaining the rental permit. And this way, so it also puts the owner on notice, if they don't have that rental permit, that it's probably a problem.
Okay.
And then there's to
My-
contact you guys.
Should we put that in the rental ordinance,
Yeah,
then.
that's what I was just gonna
Right,
say, is
instead of-
that
instead
should
of
be,
this.
that should
Okay.
be in addition to 263.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this way it just brings it full circle.
Cool beans,
Right.
cool beans,
Very good.
like you guys
Alright,
got us
thank you,
better.
guys.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right, have a good day.
thank you.
Okay.
Well, you guys are here for something else too, right?
Next we have, United Riverhead Terminal with, Jeff Murphy and Bob Kozakovich.
I'm gonna go get
Coffee?
my flip top.
Resolution's in the packet.
Okay.
Is Bob available, John?
Yeah, I think he just stepped into the hallway.
I'm gonna get my flip top.
What's that? Can't even see it with the glare.
Oh, it's
Oh,
a
that
beach.
looks pretty.
I know.
Yeah. They come up with some great
I
ones.
know,
It's
I'm like, you don't even have to
I
change them,
really
they
wanna
just
be
pop
sitting
up.
here right now when you're showing me a picture like that. I've had a giraffe for the past few days.
Back again.
Good morning.
Alrighty, guys.
It's my pile.
Okay.
Minor space.
This was a resolution that was pulled at our last meeting, that we were going to discuss. I will turn it over to you guys.
Yeah,
Approved, next.
I think there was some questions raised, and I wanted to just go through a little bit of history, and I'm gonna confess that I don't have it fully, clear in my head probably. But I know that, with respect to this particular location, it was established prior to zoning, at some point in time, because the question came up, did it ever receive a prior special permit approval? And, digging in, we did determine that it did have a prior special permit application made. In fact, I found a resolution from April 19th of 1977, which granted the petition of Northville Industries for a special permit. But the special permit at that time was granted because the zoning on the property did allow for the use, albeit by a special permit consideration. It was Industrial B, I believe. Probably just lost my pages, and Industrial A, I'm sorry. And at the time, Industrial A, which was found at section 108-274, allowed for non-nuisance industry to be permitted by a special permit. So the application was granted as a non-nuisance industry, and I might have been Industrial B. I'm a little bollocksed up today. Fast forward, we have an application that's before you. I know that there's some questions asked, well, you know, we are looking to eliminate non-conforming uses. This is clearly a non-conforming use because the current zoning is RA 80. Under our code, we have section 301-222, which does state that a non-conforming building or non-conforming use may be extended or enlarged by special permit of the town board. And that's the nature of the application before you. Is brought under section 301-222 to permit the addition of the 6 tanks, the pad, in order to allow for the site to take in biofuel or biomix to comply with the New York State regulation that's been discussed before the board. And here we are. So the application is to allow for an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use.
So my question is, what is the resolution that's looking to get passed? Because
Well, that's why I'm here. I'm hoping that the board
yeah,
can
I
give us some
don't, I
further
mean, Tim,
clarification,
you
some
brought
further
this
direction.
forward, so what is it that I'm not really sure what, you tabled it last time, was there a reason for tabling it?
Yeah, I had received a lot of calls from people and emails from people who live in the community that weren't able to attend the board meeting because of the vacation week. So that was the main reason for tabling it, so people would have a chance to come out and speak at the board meeting when we put this up for resolution.
And I think Eve Kaplan was surprised by what transpired too.
Yeah, I think Tim did mention that to me, that he was concerned, he did talk to Eve, and he was concerned about her, remarks about taking her property, so I thought that there was another resolution or a revised resolution that was being worked on.
So what is the
I just-
revised?
That would take out eminent domain.
I started doing that, but frankly, I wanted to hear from you as decision makers and the otherwise where we're going, because, I think I need a little bit of a direction from you before I can put it
And I'm
into
just
final
wondering
form.
how something came to be that that it was up for a vote and Eve didn't even know about it.
It's my understanding there may have been some reach out, but it wasn't done with disclosure of who was asking for it, so.
Yeah, she actually sounded surprised. I mean, we all got a letter from her.
Yeah, no, I saw the email.
So this intersection actually came up probably 8 years ago, Jim, you might remember, with Henry Silverman, when the water was running down.
Well, this is the other side, but yes.
Okay, so the water was running down Northville Turnpike and then running down Sound Avenue, and then it was settling on private property on the
Corner of the-
northeast corner of Pennies and Sound.
Right.
So the property owner sued the town and said, you're putting your runoff in
They
here.
filed a notice of claim.
Or filed a notice of claim, then the town
That
went
was
to
in
the county,
2011.
because we found a county bubbling system, Dan McCormick did, on the corner of Northville, that was actually bubbling the water down to this location.
Right.
So we started working back and forth with the county to try and fix this intersection.
Well, he
It was-
filed a claim against the county as well.
Right, so it was a long time ago that this intersection was identified as a problematic intersection, and that the highway superintendent started looking into it as to how to fix the problem, working with Suffolk County DPW or Suffolk County. So that's where it started 8 years ago, 9 years ago, as far as I recollect.
So I have a question about that. What you're referring to is the accumulation of water during the storm from in that area.
Anytime, there's always standing water on that
Well, there's a
private property,
standing
it's
water
a
easement on
problem.
Harold Evans
So,
property, but it's been
so,
there
so
for 60 years.
the traffic study that was done with this was not referring to the water,
No.
it was to the turning of the vehicles.
That's
It was
correct.
the
Right,
it was
but
So-
the
then,
turning
when we
problem.
did have a work session about it, we identified that it was a problematic intersection, and the highway superintendent was going to work with URT to come up with the solution to fix the intersection, to make it safe passage, and then also for drainage, which I think that URT has agreed to pay for, both the drainage and the widening of the intersection, which is something that the highway superintendent has wanted to do.
I know Mr. Prushnowski's in the room. It's my understanding that URT, if they're asked to, is prepared to pay all costs
Louder.
associated. It's my understanding they are prepared to pay all costs associated with either modifying the turn radius, dealing with drainage, relocating utilities, but
And the highway
that I understand is true.
And the highway department would do the work, and then get reimbursed by URT. So it's really a town road improvement is what we're looking at.
And it would have to be with the understanding that this would have to be approved by the highway superintendent.
Yes.
Any work to be done up there would have to meet his guidelines, meet his,
Have to be town highway specs.
correct.
All right, I have a few questions not directly related to that. This resolution that was pulled, is this the resolution that you're looking to move forward? Because I have a couple questions, because it does.
I don't think so, because I've
No.
heard that you don't want to have anything mentioned about eminent domain. You
That's
want that
correct.
off the table.
Well, okay, so a couple questions, and I think I'd emailed it to the whole board, where you have the RA 80 zoning, and you've stated that this project, I
It's-
believe, is consistent with the RA 80
It's not
zoning,
consistent
which.
with the uses. It's a non-conforming use.
Yes.
And another part, I state that it's a non-conforming use, and it's an expansion under 301-222. So
Okay.
it is an expansion of a non-conforming use.
And then the other thing is that it's,
That's gotta come out.
under secret, you're issuing a negative declaration. We had the traffic study done that has significant impacts, and even in this resolution, and what everyone's just saying is that mitigation is required, from that traffic study. And under the secret regulations, it's my understanding that the resolutions need to be practical, they need to be preventable, you need to be remediate them, and you need to be able to actually accomplish them. We know that there's taking of land here, and the homeowner, for the remediation, that the taking of the land, the homeowner has already stated that she is not interested in doing that. So I'm not really sure how this is a negative declaration under SECRA if you can't accomplish what the remediation is. And then the other thing is, what are the other alternatives? You know, what were the truck sizes? Can there be smaller truck sizes? Is there any other alternatives from using this intersection? And I didn't see any of that in the SECRA. So Jeff, this is to you. You know, if you have this traffic study in the reso, it's calling for remediation that we really can't accomplish or cannot be accomplished in the 1 to 3 year period that we know of, or it's not a practical, how can we have a negative declaration?
We don't know that.
Jody, I'm asking Jeff.
You're
No,
making
I'm asking-
hypothetical
I'm not- it's not a hypo-
statements
it's not-
that we can't accomplish it.
Jody,
We don't know
Jody,
that until the highway
Jo-
superintendent tells us.
Jody, there, in this resolution, it gives you a Suffolk County tax map of a private parcel. The person who owns that private parcel has already indicated that they are not willing to sell that parcel. Nor has there been any contract or any contact with the applicant. So I'm asking Jeff, how do we make this a negative declaration under unlisted when we have issues that we've clearly identified that need to be mitigated?
It's my understanding that the conflicting or potentially dangerous situation with the turning radius exists today. This pursuant to the traffic report, that situation will not be exacerbated by the proposed application you have before you.
And how did we identify that? Because did we ask them to find out whether there would be more trucks? We had them do the trucks as it is when the biofuel is brought in as already pre-mixed. So how are we monitoring the traffic that way? What is the expert opinion on
The
that?
conclusion of the traffic report is that and by the applicant, is that there will not be a significant increase in truck traffic as a result of this application. The primary motivating factor to the number of increases of truck or decreases in truck is going to be dependent upon the weather. If we have a cold winter, you obviously will have more truck traffic, delivering home heating fuel oil. If you have a warm winter like you do this year, your number of truck traffic is going to be significantly decreased.
But you also have the addition of 108,000 gallons. What effect will have on the number of trucks that they're able to supply?
According to the traffic report, it's minimal.
They
My
said it
understanding
at
is
the public
that the
hearing.
trucks that are going up there empty now to load up at the rack and pick up fuel oil or heating oil and leave will now be bringing the biomix up with them, unloading the biomix, then going to the rack and picking up their heating oil and heading back out. So that's why they're indicating that there's not gonna be a significant increase in truck traffic.
That's what their
That's what-
study and their, offer of proof was.
And you're comfortable with this traffic study? It was
Well,
my understanding
what
that
I-
there was
what I
a
did-
problem with this group that did this traffic study and
I
historical.
kind of
what the
approached
number
it from a
is.
different perspective. I asked the police department to tell me, if they could, the number of motor vehicle accidents that occurred in that location over the last few years. They went back to 2008, and since that time, there's been 6 accidents. Now, Chief will admit that since prior to 2016, the capture rate may not have been accurate.
So it
so
might be
from-
more than 8, you're
It could
saying?
be more than 6.
More than 6, I'm sorry.
The one in '08 was a deer. In 2014, a vehicle was rear-ended as the first car was eastbound turning onto Penny's. In 2016, there were 2 cars involved. Again, it was a left turn onto Penny's. In September of 2017, there was a westbound car that was slowing down for traffic. It got rear-ended. It was east of Penny's. March of 2018, there was a rear end, again, a car stopped to make a left at Penny's. And then in December of 2018, there was an individual who was lost. He pulled over, realized where he was, started to pull over to make a left on the Penny's and got clipped. None of the cars involved anybody from Sound Shore Road. None of the cars involved anybody from Penny's Road.
Or
None of the
trucks.
cars involved URT or any other vehicle from that
Well, we had
operation.
that many accidents already. So that's
Certainly a
not-
high-traffic area.
Absolutely, so.
All of
Uh,
Riverhead is during pumpkin
Actually,
season.
that's
So
in the
pretty
I'm
good.
summer.
still
No,
not,
this
I'm
is
still
a
not,
particularly high-traffic area during pumpkin picking.
Yeah.
I'm still not understanding though, where we get the numbers that this is not going to increase truck traffic. What is the
Well, I don't think we have
empirical data?
anything to refute that.
But that's,
Other than generalized characterization
Why do
that
you
it's
think,
gonna result.
and I'm gonna ask a simple question, and I'm just being, what makes you think that it would?
because who's bringing the biofuel in?
It's gonna be injected, isn't it?
No, the biofuel has to get brought to the
No,
plant.
it's being brought by the trucks
But-
going up empty is what they've stated publicly.
Well, that's
Is
what
it
they
the
have to
trucks,
do now,
the
but
empty
is
trucks
No,
that
right
are
now
going
it's
out?
coming
Isn't
in-
it a plan to have it
They're-
there already?
My understanding is they're pumping it in mixed, and it's
It's,
going out.
and it's working. It's working.
Right,
Right now, they're asking for a special permit to expand their use. Right now, they've had to comply since July. They're pumping it in, it's coming in pre-mixed on the barges.
Which is
And-
probably a
and-
cost center,
and
right?
it-
Is that what it is?
But it's,
Excuse me? It's a cost center, right?
right, but it's not
And
our,
who pays for that cost?
but it's not our
Me.
job, but it's not our job to determine the special permit based on the economics of a private business.
It's
I don't
not
care-
based on
no, I-
economics,
So
it's
it's-
based on a
I'm talking
state
about the,
mandate.
I'm talking about the state mandate.
But they're complying with the state mandate right now without the tanks. They've
They're
been
going,
complying
they're
since
doing
July.
what they can
But there's
to
also-
work it in.
The applicant is saying they're not complying with the state mandate.
I
The
think
state
we
Right now.
mandate requires that they use a mix ratio, I believe, between
5%.
5%.
6 and 20%.
5%.
To receive,
Five.
5 is the minimal, but between 6 and 20, they are eligible, or there is eligibility for tax credits if you mix it at a higher rate. Some customers request it at a higher rate. This is what I've been told from URT. So in order to, what they're bringing in, what they're pumping in now is at 5%. And apparently they can't, I'm not sure if they can't, but they're not bringing it in at a higher rate through the boats.
So they gotta bring it in by truck.
Strictly at 5%.
So that
they
adds
gotta
more
bring their
trucks just
own
trying
in
to keep the
to
mandate.
set up the
Thank you,
mixing
that's
tanks.
that's what I'm saying,
So if they had the ability to do the mix without having to bring it in by truck,
it's going to increase the
it would
traffic.
decrease the traffic.
Decrease.
No, they bring it in by, but they bring it in by barge now, off the shore. So they don't have to have the extra trucks to do it.
There are no extra trucks.
Right, that's what
There are no
they
extra
have stated
Trucks
publicly.
are coming now from Calverton empty to pick up the product that we need to distribute at Calverton. They're there every single day. They come up empty, they leave full. They come up empty, they leave full. There is no, and so the plan is to bring the biofuel up on those empty trucks, unload it into the tank, and it's not every day because we have some tanks there. And then we can mix, we can custom blend from 6% to 20, the higher, more biofuel you put into your product, the more state tax credits you get. It's the way the state of New York wanted to encourage to use biofuel up to 20%. They didn't wanna go to 20% because it's a cost. They're worried about the increased price to the homeowner. So at the present time, we're just bringing it in at 5% pre-mixed because we have to comply with the law and minimally satisfy our customers.
Well, I mean, part of the board's determination should be the use will not prevent or substantially impair either the reasonable and orderly use of properties in the neighborhood. We had a public hearing here. The community came and said that these trucks turning there is a hazard. So, and we're saying basically to them, even turning off of, the truck study has shown that up right on, Sound Shore Road and also on Penny's Lane is a hazard when these trucks are turning. And so, let me finish, okay? So, one of the determinations for granting a special permit is that the use will not prevent or substantially impair either the reasonable and orderly use of other properties in the neighborhood. And I also believe that it says access facilities are adequate for the estimated traffic of public streets and sidewalks, so as to ensure that the public in relation to the general character of the neighbor and other existing or permitted uses to avoid traffic congestion, and that vehicle entrances and exits shall be clearly visible. But, so we know from the traffic study that this situation exists and could potentially be exacerbated with granting this special permit. And their traffic study is showing that. And we're trying to say that we are ignoring that by declaring a negative declaration and saying that those situations that are occurring are in fact not really relevant. And we're asking to expand and to add another 108,000 gallons, which has the potential to have more trucks coming in and out because there's more fuel there to come back and forth, as well as bringing these trucks there. And as part of SECRA and for mitigation, what are the alternatives? We have not asked them for any alternatives that can be achieved. The only one that we have in this resolution is one we know can't be achieved. So I'm not getting where we're going with this.
And
Jeff,
by the
can you
way,
repeat what you said?
we're not talking about one or two people. We got as Tim said earlier, and I think Diane is here, we've received a large number of letters and a lot of people who came and spoke out. It's a large number of people. It's not just one or two people.
And I think, just a second, And I think the situation is not that we're trying to not let them do the biodiesel there.
They have to do it.
I think that we've all agreed to it. I think they've
Have
been
to.
very accommodating in what they've done
environmental
to be
friendly
able,
thing to
to
do.
be able to do that. I
vote
don't
yes.
disagree with that. But this negative declaration, when we have this traffic study, I think I do not think that we should do that.
I think what I'm hearing though is the traffic study does not necessarily
No.
point to the direction that you're saying today. I
But
think
I'm
the
s-
traffic
That's
study
correct.
is
Correct.
not
That's absolutely
raising
correct.
a significant
It's not.
environmental concern, and that's the
But in,
distinction here.
But
And right now,
I
they
think-
they are proposing to make the physical improvements to their site entrance now. They
And-
have complete control over that now. That exists today, and again, the traffic report saying no significant increase in truck traffic. They're proposing as part of this application.
where does it say in the traffic study, no increase in truck traffic?
I don't have.
It's not in the traffic study.
And two, I can,
It's not in the.
It was part of the testimony that
But
Mr. Happy
whose
offered at the
testimony?
It was Mr. Happy offered that at the hearing,
Okay, so
but-
can we have
That's
some
not
other,
part
can we
of
have
the-
some,
Yes.
should we have
That's
somebody
not
come
part
in,
of a traffic
an
study.
independent
Holy
person
mackerel.
come in and analyze it?
We already hired an independent to verify our count at the RAC, and he went back 2.5 years. The situation, if
Vic,
it-
can
if
you
it-
come up, because everybody
well,
needs to
I
hear
don't
what
know
you're
if I'm
saying.
allowed to come
Well,
up.
I
You
think
should have
that,
been invited up right from,
Yes.
as I mentioned.
I
yesterday.
agree.
Okay, look, if you deny the special permit, that's your privilege. The traffic intersection will not be corrected unless the town board authorizes the highway superintendent to do it on his own motion. Gotta float a bond, hire the engineers, design it. It also has not been determined whether or not for a finite, until an engineer really looks at it, if we could do it within the 50-foot right-of-way, because right now the pavement's only 35 feet. That's what we were trying to do before. Whether or not the property owner wants to sell to the town of Riverhead to improve the intersection is immaterial. She's got property rights in the eminent domain law in the New York State. I, for one, I understand it because I had to vote for eminent domain several times when I was on the town board. And one time the town lost when the property owner did not take the money, put it in escrow, and he thought he deserved more. He made this case to the court, and we had to pay him an extra $300,000 for the
But
public.
where is the nexus of the public benefit? Where is the nexus of the public benefit?
No, the public benefit is that it's a public road. This is not an intersection that the tank farm is on the public road, up at Sound Shore Road.
But it's an access facility
On Sound-
it's an
well,
access
Sound
facility
Shore-
and a non-conforming use.
No, on
Speak
Sound
to
Shore
God
Road,
Almighty.
the traffic report also said that we're gonna do this in site plan, which we still gotta go through site plan. They want us to cut back our front yard so that the trucks go evenly on Sound Shore Road, which we will address in site plan, because we intend to follow that recommendation in site plan.
And this goes back to my negative declaration.
Once we're on the public roads, URT pays highway taxes. We're on public roads, which are administrated by the town highway department, the highway superintendent, and with the town board, when you have to get involved and authorize engineering studies on his behalf, pay for it. A million times I did that, okay? So that's where we are right now. In the meantime, we're willing to reimburse the town for whatever the town engineers come up with the auspices of the highway department to improve the safety, flow, and drainage of that intersection. We're willing to reimburse the town of Riverhead. We're not buying the property, we're not improving the property. As part of a condition of the special permit, for the public benefit, the town board has asked United Riverhead Terminals to reimburse the town to improve the situation there.
To
And
fix
that's
the
what
town
that's
road.
what you've asked a question, and we said, yes, we will reimburse the town of Riverhead to improve the town road at our expense, but you have to authorize it, you have to design it has to be to the specs of the highway superintendent. Whether or not it requires acquisition of private property, that's to be determined. That's all I can say. I mean, and as far as here we go, I mean, we
So-
said it on the record, the trucks right now leave Calverton empty. They come up to the rack. They pull in, they fill up with heating oil, take it back to Calverton so we can distribute it to the South Shore and Western Brookhaven customers that we have. The plan is to bring the trucks from Brooklyn out with the biofuel. They'll just go right up to the tanks when necessary, because we'll have 6 tanks there. They'll unload, Then we can fill the heating oil to come back there, or for our customers, we can custom blend from 6% to 20%, which right now we're bringing it in by barge.
How often do you mix above 5%?
Well, it all depends on what the
I'm
customers.
just curious, how many requests do you have above 5%?
Well, we don't have any right now for us because we can't do it right now.
How many do you anticipate?
I don't know yet because
What do you-
it's a market.
At 6%, a 6% mix, what would that be used for?
Heating oil,
Home heating oil
Yeah.
used at 6%?
up to 20.
What kind of customer uses a 20% mix?
Well, the state is trying to encourage people to do that. The state
But
is
it's
trying
not
to
state law
encourage.
current right now.
Excuse me?
But without it being state law, will people put 20% biofuel in?
I don't think so, it's more money, I don't know, but you can get a tax
And
credit.
if you did have to mix at the 20%, would you then be bringing more trucks in because you're gonna have to mix at a higher level?
No, it's
So-
just, instead of, if you have a 100-gallon tank truck, okay, which you don't, but let's say you have 100 gallons. Right now, it's 100 gallons of fuel. You fill up heating oil. You put 80 gallons of heating oil and you put 20 of bio. It's the same amount, it's the
Right, but
same
if you're
bio.
but I'm saying if you're mixing, because you only have a finite number of tanks, right? 100,000, 108,000 gallons. So if you're mixing at a 20% level, aren't you having to fill up those tanks more often?
Yeah, but we have empty trucks going there every single day. They will just have the biofuel on. It's not an extra trip. That's why we're trying to.
There'll probably be
Not
fewer
extra
trips.
truck
We
traffic.
said it on the record. I mean, this is the 50th
Pretty
time
easy to
we've said
figure
it.
out.
The trucks now leave Calverton. They go up there empty. They pick up, because that's how we get the heating oil at the Calverton facility, is we send our big tanker trucks up there now.
You're saying it's the same exact number of trucks?
I'm gonna
Yeah,
jump in
be-
here since Victor was able to jump in.
Come on up, John. John, come on up. You can come up.
Come to the table.
Come to the table.
Sit here, what you gonna do?
I just have one question.
don't
Is
sit right across
is
the room.
biofuel on the site in Calverton right now, going into the racks, mixing to a
Yeah, it's
20%?
It's going in at 5%.
So there is biofuel being brought to your facility in Calverton?
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to know.
No, not biofuel. It's
That's
the
what I'm
mix.
asking.
It's the mix, right.
So right now, in Calverton, you have no biofuel on your site to
No.
be mixed in the racks?
We have it, we bring the 5% pre-mixed
I understand that.
from Sound Shore Road to Calverton.
So I just wanted, I only had one
Right.
question, and it's been answered.
Right.
I just want, do you
The
understand what I'm
customers,
asking?
the
Could you
customers.
explain what you're asking?
Yeah.
The cus-
My question is that if they're gonna bring biofuel from Brooklyn in their trucks to Sound Shore Road to, URT, my question is, are they bringing biofuel right now to Calverton site to mix in their racks in Calverton? Or
No.
have they?
No, because the fuel that we get for Calverton comes from the tank.
I understand
farm.
that. I'm just asking if there's a separate truck coming with biofuel and emptying it in Calverton
No.
right now, or has it ever?
Well, the trucks come from.
Calverton or in
we-
Central
we-
Road?
we
At
have-
Cal, in
We
Calverton.
have trucks back and forth that go from
I know that
Brooklyn-
very well.
Brooklyn to Calverton.
With-
We're not doing the biofuel.
So you're not bringing biofuel from Brooklyn anywhere east, you're not traveling with any
No,
biofuel?
not yet, because we're bringing it in pre-mixed on the ship.
Okay. I'm happy.
Huh?
I just wanted to know if they were bringing biofuel from
Okay.
Calverton to mix it to a 20% in Calverton as is.
The Calverton facility is a very small, we have very small tanks there in relation to the tank farm. So the majority of our distribution, it happens on Sound Shore Road. The distribution at Calverton primarily is for our South Shore and Western Brookhaven customers.
So everything that's leaving your Calverton site is 5% then?
Correct,
Okay.
right.
But how many gallons of storage do you have at Calverton?
We have about 2 million gallons.
And how many do you have at Northville?
We have over 22 million barrels. It's probably 250 million gallons, something like that. We have, that's with all the tanks. I have the data in my file. I didn't bring my file with me.
By the way, just because we brought you both up to the table, if you could state your name and identify who you represent.
Sure.
Just so we know.
John Cullen, Northville Beach Civic.
Vic Personnowski, United Riverhead Terminals, and United Metro Port.
Okay.
Any more
So see-
questions?
Thank you.
Anyone
Thank you,
ever?
everybody.
No,
Have a good day.
Who
As I
did-
sat back there, I just
Who
wanted to.
Who did the secret on this?
Jeff Seaman did it initially, and then I followed up with it based upon additional information, based on the public hearing, and also did a traffic study.
Cause I would like you to contact Jeff Seaman, because I did speak to him, just ask him about it, and his conclusion is a little bit, different, if you guys could just coordinate on that.
Okay.
So how did you explain why secret didn't need to be done? Because you said that they were taking an exasperated situation and making it better, or what did you?
No, I didn't say secret didn't need to be done. I
What
said
did you say?
The justification for the secret determination was in part, you gotta take a look at not just traffic. They located the tanks as far back and as minimally visible from possible. All the rest, like grading, drainage, all the rest of that. The traffic is obviously the key link to all this, and based upon the requested traffic study, there is minimal traffic impact as a result of this proposed application. And the mitigation is a carrot above and beyond what they're proposing, because if they were proposing double number of trucks, double number of tanks, that sort of thing, you know, the larger tanks, then you could look at larger alternatives.
So the
There has to be a
pre-
negative
We're
proportional to
introducing
what
a
the
new-
applications is being put before you. There's a minimal impact of what there's being put before you in terms of traffic, visual impact, therefore, what they're offering in terms of the money is above and beyond just mitigation, but it is a mitigation of a traffic problem that exists today, both at the intersection to the property and to
And I
Penny's
also
Road and
offered on
Sound.
behalf
Jeff,
of URT, the drainage situation, which I told the town attorney, that any drainage impacts on that, we would help mitigate and we'd reimburse the town for.
But we,
Again, they're not causing an exasperation of the existing flooding problem on Sound Avenue or Penny's Road.
In the special permits, you can ask for reasonable conditions over and above the, and I
Absolutely you can.
and I have to tell you that now, and don't take this the wrong way, but there is case law here on when you issue special permits. I was involved in one in the early nineties where we thought we'd win and we lost in court. Okay, so you gotta be careful, and we're being, we're volunteering, and a concern was raised by the town board, and we answered it that we would help remediate the situation on the town roads and reimburse the town for those improvements.
but we know that the remediation cannot actually be accomplished.
You don't know that,
Well, we
Supervisor,
know
until.
we do know the
until-
landowner
Well, the
has
land-
not agreed to sell the land and has
She-
sent a letter saying she is not interested.
Well, then so what she's saying is she's not gonna voluntarily sell the land to the town of Riverhead. So then the town of Riverhead have to make a choice, can it be done a different way? And that's up to the engineers and your consultation. What we're saying is, whatever you come up with and how you achieve it, we're willing to reimburse the town
But the-
100% for your expenses and the cost of the improvement of the intersection. If the special permit is denied, there'll be no improvements on the intersection unless you do it on your own motion.
Well, we appreciate you wanting to rectify the situation, and I think that goes back to SECRA and the alternatives. You know, what are the other alternatives to mitigate this traffic situation, and what alternatives have we looked at?
If you were to put, if the town board decided it wants the applicant to put in a cut road to the east from Sound Avenue all the way down up to Sound Shore Road,
Louder.
you would have to take a look,
Ridiculous.
you would have to look at every single traffic intersection that it would create, including at Highlands at
Another
Aquabog
cut
and all
on
the
Sound
other
Avenue.
roads going by that area. That would require a full-blown traffic analysis, farmland assessment, because you would have loss of farmland. That would be, in my opinion, my professional opinion, as the secret coordinator that sits in the town today, be far worse than what is being proposed today.
What about even the size of the trucks? Have we addressed that? What size are these trucks that are having trouble traveling? Maybe the trucks need to be smaller, that's another alternative.
From what,
Then you're gonna have more trucks. If you make them
I'm-
smaller, then you're gonna have more
I'm
trucks.
just asking what the alternatives are, because if we're saying that there's an issue here, and that the issue needs to be mitigated, that is for somebody to say, what are the alternatives?
I put forth my recommendations to you and to the town board. If
So
you
no
agree-
alternatives?
We've looked at this project in terms of the proposal and potential impacts. I believe that they've addressed everything to my satisfaction. If you agree with it,
You know,
you can vote.
If I could just make one observation. Believe me, we're talking, just hashing the same thing. Somebody has a CDL license and have driven 18-wheelers, I can tell you, for 65 years, that road's been being used, because I remember as a little kid, my father worked at Northville, and my best friend's father worked at Northville for years. So trucks have been going up there for 70 years, or 50, since 54, when that was built. trucks today are different. I mean, as far as turning radiuses, as far as easy, I mean, so, I understand that maybe there's more trucks going than was 50 years ago.
And more traffic, just generally passenger
Well,
traffic.
that's the East End, I'm sorry about that, but that's just the way it is. I mean, this is the East End of Long Island, it's the second best real estate in the entire country.
Well, actually.
So I'm glad that we live here, and
Councilman,
that's the way it is.
actually, I will state that when Northville Industries had Northville gas stations, there was a lot more traffic up at the tank farm because they were actually distributing gasoline to their gas stations in addition to the heating oil.
That's correct.
Oh, no, that's,
That was back in the 60s.
and you know why I know that? Because they came in to the town board and made that presentation to us, and there was one right on the corner of Peconic Avenue, was a Northville, gas station, okay? So the traffic, the study, the traffic analysis that we were asked to do as part of this review process was to go back in our records and to verify the truck traffic and we went back 2.5 years. What the traffic engineer also did, which I heard on the public hearing the night we weren't here when it was tabled, was that, well, they put a thing out and it was well, what he did there was he wanted to do a 1-week sample, and he wanted to compare what he got in November of last year, and he went back the same week for the 2.5 years to make sure that the information that we were giving him from our computer was accurate. Okay, in other words, that we weren't cooking the books. So that's why the counter was out there for that particular week. And we provided all that information willingly, no problem. We should have, I will say this, we should have provided it initially for the public hearing. That was an internal decision, and we did subsequently, and I'm glad we did. And it is what it is.
Some of the complaint was that it wasn't accurate because there are periods of time.
Well, what we did, what we said, what we did was,
count,
we took the
you know, 6
highest,
weeks out of the year,
we
it would
took
be good
the
either.
highest week, and we provided that to the town initially, which we should have gone
So
over
how
to
many,
an.
how many daily trucks were there, like 50 or 60, something like that? So
I
there,
don't have
it
my
is quite a
files.
significant amount of trucks that are turning there.
But they're not, all related to our operation, okay, so there are
I just-
garbage trucks.
I just wanna ask one other question.
Sure.
In the study that you did, one thing I didn't notice if it was in there, when you did with the trucks, the size of the trucks that they were using for the turning, for the
Well,
turning radius and all that, they didn't indicate.
The turning radius, what we analyzed was the big trucks.
But it doesn't
okay?
state that in there. I
Well,
didn't see
it actually
Did you
shows
see
it
it,
in there.
Jeff?
I mean, I can get you a subsequent letter from the engineer.
could,
you want.
yeah.
That's easy to do.
Because they identified all the different sizes, but then when they were talking about the turning
Well,
radius and everything.
the main truck that has not all the time, sometimes they do make it without crossing the double line, just so you know. I know the school buses don't make it.
Well, school buses
Okay,
have a
'cause
wider turn radius than those 18 wheelers.
That's correct, the school buses
not
don't make
articulated
it,
to fix.
okay? Because
I
right
know, I used to
now,
drive a
right
school
now,
bus.
the school buses don't make that turn, okay?
So
Our
the school
trucks
buses
can
once a
half the
day-
time.
How many school buses are there?
Oh, I don't know, but we're gonna find out shortly, so but I'll say this, that the one that was identified specifically, Supervisor, was the big tanker truck, because that's the one that has.
6,000 gallon?
That's what do they call it?
That was the largest one.
Our largest truck, the one
The
you see
12,
with the.
they have a 2,900, an 8,500, and a 12,000 gallon.
12,000, right.
So
That's
that
the
was the one that was used?
Right, that was the
Because
one.
I didn't see that in the
Right.
study
Well,
anywhere.
that's the one that's, if you saw the picture of the diagram in the study.
Right, yeah,
that's
but the
one that's
majority of
there.
trucks that go there are smaller mom and
Yes,
pops.
the
They're the
smaller
ones that
mom
are
and
picking
pops
the
have no
product to
trouble.
go.
Right, the
Correct.
smaller mom and pops have no trouble making the double.
Well, that's the majority of people
Right.
coming up, right?
So based
They're going
on
from there to
the
the homes.
nature of this special permit application, for us is that we're not introducing a new product, we're not increasing our
Well, you're
business per
introducing a
se.
new product, you're adding biofuel.
No,
That's
we're
it's not on site
introducing,
now.
no, we're introducing an additive to the heating fuel that's mandated by New York State,
But how is
okay?
that not a new product? I know it's mandated, I'm not
But it's
disagreeing with
not a
them.
product, our product is heating heating oil, that's, we don't sell biofuel raw.
Separately, no.
Right, we
So
sell.
it's an additive product.
It's just like when I
It's
go
an
to the
additive product.
right, well, it's like when I go to the gas station on the off summer, the ethanol's not in the gas. I think it's in the gas all the time now, but it used
Yes,
to be.
it is.
Okay, so, but years ago,
Which is
it was
whatever.
only regional, so
Yeah,
when the
whatever.
gas station was filling up my car for 12 gallons of gas, it had 10% ethanol, but then in the summer, it had 100% gasoline. So it was different, so it's just an additive to the gas. And if you have a 100-gallon tank, it's 100 gallons of fuel. Right now, it's 95% heating oil, 5% biofuel.
I think it's also comes down to also being a good neighbor.
Well,
on
we're,
that-
we're willing to reimburse the town, including for the drainage mitigation, the improvement of the town highway intersection there.
And on that note, can someone explain to me how it comes up in a resolution, eminent domain comes up in a resolution and no one's had a discussion with the
Well,
property owner?
first of all,
Can
I'm
someone-
guilty.
Okay,
All right, so I
wanna-
take
Let's
full
have
credit
a
for that
conversation
because
with you with the town attorney.
I was trying to capture all possible sequences, all things, and wanted to make sure it was clear that if the applicant was willing to front the cost for that, it should have said if needed, or if determined
if
to be
necessary, 'cause
required.
we don't know if
So
it's
it wasn't artfully drafted, but I wanted to capture all
What would de-
scenarios.
What would determine it to be required?
If
A highway
Geo says he needs
superintendent
more room.
If
Determining
you got a
needs-
traffic engineer that comes in and designs the intersection, then it's up to the town board how to proceed.
But I think in the traffic study, it indicates what was
And I
necessary.
think the town board would have to make a
For
determination
remediation.
whether
Well,
they wanted
that's
to do
only,
eminent
that's
domain.
only because I asked them to take a look at it with the present conditions, okay? And that if there's another way of doing it,
So
because,
in the-
but that's not a design
So,
study.
but in the traffic study, right?
Right.
So the traffic study said what
Traffic
about,
analysis.
traffic analysis said what about that corner?
It says that our trucks, our big 12,000-gallon trucks have difficulty making going across the line.
And was there line of sight issues also for traffic?
Not so much as the actual turning radius that's
Getting into the
required
west-
to
east
get
on
across
Lake.
that
And then when the
double line.
trucks turned in, I thought that they were also in the lane of oncoming traffic, so that if somebody was sitting there in the west lane
Right.
on Penny's Road, that there was a
And if
difficulty with the traffic
If
turning
the
there.
traffic engineer comes up with the suggestion that we need a turning lane there, we'll have to pay for it.
But what, in the traffic study, did it address that?
Not the turning lane.
But
no.
it addressed, how did it address the property there? What did it say about the turning of the trucks?
You mean as
It was
far as?
brought up at the public hearing
No, I'm
because
asking-
I brought it
I'm-
up.
No,
asking
but I'm
Vic,
saying,
it's in
I
this-
think you're saying in this, I don't
Yeah.
think
There's a
the
diagram that
study,
shows it.
we have a diagram in there, but we didn't identify X property. I think that
So,
was
but-
done in a resolution.
So, but this
Yeah.
this diagram, what is this in reference to and why is it in there?
Yeah, that's the diagram. This is the diagram that shows, right, this is the degrees that if you wanted to take the and I have to look here. This is the degrees that they would say that in order, wait a minute, let me read this again, because it's been a while since at the center of the curve, where the trucks make round to a cut should be made 34 feet deep. Yes, they're recommending that a cut would be made 34 feet,
And why are they recommending that?
because that's that particular engineer's opinion.
And it's his opinion to do this because of why?
Because
Why
I
is he,
brought,
what,
Because when you requested through Jeff for us to analyze our truck,
Turning radius.
not only the truck traffic, but also the turning radius, we asked them to take a look at that intersection.
okay, and when he took a look at the intersection, he determined what?
That's his suggestion, but that's not,
An engineer
But-
drawing.
that's not the town engineer.
No, I know, but why is he suggesting to do this?
Because we asked them to take a look at the.
because
we
that would
asked
be
them
the
to-
easiest
Oh,
way
you
to
mean
achieve
once you
I'm
mitigate it.
asking Vic.
Because we asked them to take a look at the intersection and identify if there's an issue there, and he recommended a solution, according to this particular engineer. Now, there's also property on the other side of the road the right-of-way is 50 feet. Right now, the pavement's 35 feet.
Right.
So it hasn't been thoroughly, and that particular gentleman who did that wasn't aware of the 50-foot thing, because I spoke to him about it. But that's just one suggestion. Now, you brought up a turning lane from, if cars are heading east, going into Penny's Lane, if the traffic engineer says, we gotta widen Sound Avenue, put a turning lane in there, well, according to this resolution, we would pay for that too.
And you would say that as far as the trucks turning there, that it's not typical of a smaller road such as Penny's Road in the rest of the town to have these large vehicles turning down them and traversing them?
Well, the
I mean,
large-
I mean,
the
I mean, if
large-
Metro
the
North
large-
wasn't there, there would
well,
be no.
forget about
yeah.
Metro. The large vehicles go all over this town now turning. Now, what
But they
we-
don't tend to run through a residential neighborhood.
Well,
You have
this
school buses
particular
and you have
corner
people-
is
You
not
have
a
school
residential
buses, you
neighborhood.
have your-
garbage trucks, and you
Well,
have.
no, but this particular corner is not a residential neighborhood, this is a business corner, okay? But there are trucks, there are mobile gas trucks that come up, Edwards Avenue, go all the way to Sound Avenue. Our trucks are not allowed to do
Yes.
that anymore, okay?
Is Edwards
But
Avenue the same size as Penny's Road?
it's worse. That
Yeah.
Edwards Avenue is worse than that particular intersection there. So when the previous town board, even the first time, and Jody brought it up, our trucks are not allowed to do that anymore. Now.
Oh, to
but
go,
we-
okay, you're turning on 105, okay, I got
Right,
you.
right, so in other words, we come that, right now, we go down Route 58 Supervisor, and we go to either 105, or we go to Northville Turnpike by Bank of America, make a left turn and go, and the only roads that intersection is the Northville Turnpike, the Penny's Lane, make a left, go up.
So you realize, I mean, you've been a good neighbor, you realize that this is a
Right.
hazard with the trucks turning here, and
that's
you've
the-
mitigated it in
and
other
the
areas.
reason I wanted that report to be done is because I wanted to show the chairman of our company the situation so that he authorized us to authorize the town board that we would be a good neighbor and reimburse the town on any improvements to make the intersection better.
Look, the bottom line is, I understand the skepticism of the civic and the people that live up in the area, because quite honestly, 4 years ago or so, when URT made an application to do a
6 years
gas-
ago.
6 years ago.
Well, there's a lot of
Gas-
trust issues, that's for sure.
It wasn't presented very well, in my opinion. It could have been done a lot better.
It could have been done a lot better, that's
And I think it was
correct.
kind of sneaky with some of the things, the way they were done. So I certainly understand the skepticism, without a doubt. But I think what you're presenting here, and everything that I've been able to see through this, is that we're gonna gain a better intersection from the outcome of having this done.
But how?
If it's not done, they're not gonna improve, they're not gonna pay for the improvements, then the onus comes back to the town for the expenditure of making Penny's Road and Sound Avenue a better intersection.
But how
We
are
all-
we getting a better intersection?
They're not going away.
Okay,
We're gonna have an
We're out of
intersection where trucks are gonna be able to
No,
pull out.
no, I know, but it's private property that's already said they're not gonna sell it, so how are we getting that?
But we
There's
don't know
35
yet
feet of
that we
pavement.
need
Go
their
to 50.
property. That won't be determined until there's an actual traffic plan done by an engineer.
So can we get
We don't know
that?
if he's saying 50 feet.
Well, the town would author.
There's 15
Well, we
feet
could author,
that's.
If we put in the resolution that they have to pay for it, they're
Yes.
gonna pay for
Well,
it.
yeah,
It's
right.
part of
Here-
the special permit, you
yeah,
can
yeah,
ask
yeah,
them to
yeah,
pay
right.
for
So
that.
here's the thing, now remember, we have to go to site plan, so this is not the end. I mean, if you were kind enough to give a special permit here, then immediately I get a certified car, I give it to Jeff, he's gotta put it to our application, which has been there for about 6 months, and we gotta have another public hearing about our site plan, which in front of our facility, we're gonna cut back our front yard there to take his recommendation. In the meantime, you bring in Geo here, you guys talk about this, and then what I would do is you go out and you hire a traffic engineer to design
Well,
improvements.
as part of the
And we
special
pay
permit,
for- and we
as
pay
part of
for
the
that.
special condition of the special permit, we
Right.
can certainly ask for that engineer's report prior to issuing the special permit, which I think would be prudent on our behalf.
I
Because
think- I think that-
we're speculating how this is going to fix, it's already in the resolution that you brought forward that this would be done, yet you're saying that you need to get an engineer's report as part of the
Well,
special permit,
That would
we
be
can
part of the
condition.
site plan.
No, but.
You know what I'm saying, Jeff.
I know what you're saying, but I would respectfully disagree with it,
I would do it.
because
I'm not gonna buy
if
the
they're
gun
not,
that
if they're
shoots
not
me.
exasperating
I'm
the
doing it.
traffic intersection with the result of this application, they don't have to do it, based upon, if you believe their traffic report. They're offering as a good neighbor, as part of.
The traffic report doesn't address the number of trucks, it only addresses the turning radius.
So, the traffic situation at that intersection exists today, for the same type of trucks that you see outside of URT. There's a dangerous situation today. They're offering to pay for it, above and beyond what their traffic is generating as a result of this application.
But what are they offering to pay for? Unless we have the report by an engineer prior to the special permit, how do we know that they're willing to pay for it if we don't know what we're asking them to do?
Okay, so if I can say.
I'm just gonna let Jeff answer that.
Say that again?
Keep
If we
interrupting.
don't, I didn't interrupt Jody, I was just talking to Jeff.
He wasn't done talking.
Jeff, if you're saying that they're willing to pay for it, but we don't know what we're doing, so they're agreeing to pay for something we don't know what it is.
Can I put my hand
Exactly.
up?
So,
They are
so
willing
my
to-
point,
yes,
my
they're willing
point,
to
my
file
point,
covenant.
my
We're
point
willing
is
to take
that,
a leap of faith that the engineers that you hire to improve
No,
that
that you would
intersection-
hire
No,
as
we're
part of the
not
special
hi-
permit.
No,
No,
no.
we
We
would
don't
hire-
hire
we would hire
anything.
them.
No.
as
Supervisor.
independent but paid for by them.
No.
Correct.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
No.
Okay, so
You-
hired by us but paid for by you.
By resolution of the town board, this is your project,
So-
to your specifications.
I misspoke.
And what we're doing here is taking a leap of faith that that whatever they come up with, including a turning lane on Sound Avenue, okay, east and west, to make it a safer intersection, United Riverhead Terminal will reimburse the town as part of this special permit approval for our pencil tanks, which is to comply with state law, not to sell jet fuel to Islip MacArthur Airport as a new product, okay? So that's what we're trying to do here, is be a
Oh,
good
is that the
neighbor,
rumor now?
and that's all. I don't know how else to explain it, I don't know.
So that can be incorporated into the
Yes.
special permit.
Just let me know when I can say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Jody, I definitely
Okay.
want
Oh,
to-
thank you, Vic.
What?
Excuse
Oh,
me.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So,
Sorry.
the special permit is us saying, okay, we don't have a problem with you bringing in biofuel to infuse into the tanks.
Well, actually, to
Okay.
construct the tanks,
Let me,
basically. Okay.
so, then they have to go through site plan.
Right.
So site plan, during that process, it was discussed at the work session when they were here, it was discussed at the public hearings, that they were going to do a separate page that identified that intersection and how to fix that intersection and make it better from what it is today. Cause those trucks are coming and going today, and that intersection will stay the same forever and ever, cause it involves a very costly moving of a utility pole and a gas line and widening the intersection that the town would have to take, because you are so concerned about this intersection. If we deny the special permit, then we should start working on that right away. We should start working on that right away without the special permit. You should put up a resolution that we spend the money to fix that intersection today, because it's gonna be a problem today. So let's put that resolution up.
By the way, you're not concerned about that intersection?
I'm the one that brought it up at the public
Yeah,
hearing.
she
Were you,
brought it
did
up.
you
She
pay
brought it up
attention
years ago.
to it?
Well,
No, Jody brought it
read
up.
the minutes?
Jody
About
brought-
that intersection.
Actually, Jody was the one that brought it up originally.
Right.
Right, so.
So I don't know how
So
we're
yes, I
declaring a
am
negative
concerned.
declaration then, if we're having mitigation measures. If the mitigation measures is the engineering report and the rectifying of this, how is this this a negative declaration unless we have all of that spelled out completely?
Even without the proposed money being offered by the applicant to fix this, there's still grounds for the negative declaration, because they're not adding a significant number of truck traffics to warrant the improvements to this intersection in and by of itself.
And I'm still waiting for, where do we have that information?
It's in the traffic study. And
But
if you
I'll look through it
disagree-
again,
if you
I'll look through it again,
and
because
if
I
you-
didn't
and
see
it's
number of trucks in the traffic study at all.
It's also based on our
Vic?
testimony at the public hearing, which
Victor?
is a
Victor?
public record.
If you're hearing from the supervisor, if there needs to be clarification in the traffic report, I'm
Okay.
sure that you will go back to him and ask for clarification. And she is asking for,
I don't see,
Number of trucks.
because the big thing is the number of trucks, correct? I mean, this is what you're basing all this on, that there's no,
The big thing is not the number
it's-
of trucks, no, I
it-
just
but-
completely disagree with you. Putting in these pencil tanks is not increasing the truck traffic from our present levels. It has nothing to do with it. The town board asked us to take a look at this intersection as part of the, by the way, we wouldn't do this in site plan, Joey, it's gotta be done in special permit, so that's where we are.
Well, the
as a
requirement
condition.
for us to study it and you to pay for it is in the special permit.
That's
But
correct.
the actual engineering is done through site plan.
No, it's not, it has nothing to do with us, it's to do with the town board.
Well,
You'll have to
we
hire
can-
your own engineer.
We can hold up the site plan until the design for that intersection has
You
been
could if you-
engineered.
I mean, it's gonna take us 6 months to get through site plan as a minimum, so,
Right.
That's up to you, but, so as a request from the town board, as a condition to get an approval for the special permit to comply with state law, that's what we're offering here.
Are you looking for clarification that the number of trucks does not increase?
Yeah, I haven't seen that other than you guys saying, in the resolution says there's empirical data, that it's been identified and all of this.
How can we prove it to you? We went back.
I don't know, this is where I have Jeff as our planner
But
to ask that question.
we went back 2.5 years, and we said that the trucks are coming up empty, now will just have the biofuel, so there's no increased truck traffic to bring in other words, if the biofuel came in from Wooten Engineering Truck Company,
That's
and
not
that's an
interest, that's
additional,
you.
and that's an additional truck, and you'll get the contract after you leave town,
Yeah, right, thank you.
No, stop.
So the trucks are only coming, they're only your trucks that are coming in with biofuel?
That's correct, because they're coming empty up there now to bring the material back that we distribute in
So
Calverton.
no biofuel will be delivered unless it's delivered by one of your trucks?
That's correct.
And it will always go away full?
When you say taking it from the location or
Well, where do
coming
you get
up?
your biofuel? How are these tanks getting filled up?
The trucks will come from, our Metro trucks will come from Brooklyn.
Okay, so the Metro trucks, and do the Metro trucks come from Brooklyn right now to fill up at URT?
They come from Brooklyn all the time, empty, out, because we swap the trucks back and forth, because we distribute heating oil in Brooklyn.
You know what, Vic,
So,
I know what I think would be helpful
That's what
as
I'm
far
trying to
as
find out.
the number of trucks, if you
Victor,
took the average.
What you just said,
Right.
can you get Schneider Engineering to put that
Writing.
in writing?
Sure, I
Perfect.
thought we did, I thought we actually sent a letter on the record from Nelson Happy, we stated that already,
Just
several
go back
times.
and double check that, cause it
Well,
was my
we did,
understanding.
I'll have it, but it's.
You gave
pro-
the,
it's-
I saw the counts, I saw all of that
Well,
stuff.
but
I
Nelson
didn't-
Happy,
I
we
didn't
did, there were
see the
questions from the
rationale
town
for-
board. Well, the rationale is what we stated on the record on television, and we put it in writing that the biofuel will be coming up to the tank farm for the 6 pencil tanks from the Metro trucks that are now coming up there empty, and that's how we get
And
the.
that can be incorporated into the reso? for
Sure.
Special permit?
As far as the finding,
As far as that trucks that come with biofuel will always have to be filled to going out, so that there isn't
Sure.
additional trucks?
so.
Because what they're saying now is that there'll be no additional trucks bringing biofuel to the plant
Well, they're
for
claiming-
their own purpose.
They're
for the
claiming those trucks are coming empty.
And leaving
instead
full.
of- yes, so instead of
they're
coming
gonna
empty,
State
they
it
will
as a
come with the
fact,
biofuel.
They're gonna come
and make it
full
part of the
with the
record,
biofuel, and
whereas the
leaving full
client
with the next
testified
plant.
that
Correct.
we put on the record, whereas that the Metro trucks are coming up there, I mean, that's how the biofuel will be delivered to the facility.
There'll be
in
no
Brooklyn.
additional truck traffic due to the importation of the biofuel, and trucks that bring in the biofuel will leave with a tank of mixed fuel.
Now,
And
since
the
we're,
money savings for that,
That's the
can
way-
you,
that's
can
the
you
way it
adjust
works
that
right
for the
now.
residents?
That's fine,
Or
I
you
just
think
would like it clarified.
I have no problem with that.
It would be
No
a
problem.
terrible business plan
Well-
if you left empty to go all the way back to Brooklyn.
The end user's gonna pay for it whether they get it or not.
all I
They're gonna
got
pay
to
more or
say.
they're gonna pay less, so.
well, and since we're all here at the table together, does the Civic have any more questions or concerns that you wanna raise at this point?
You know, I'm sitting here saying, we mentioned EPCAL before, why don't you just put the pin tops at EPCAL?
Because we don't have enough capacity, there are only 2 million gallons of storage there. Our total sales are 42 million. We sent a letter
We know.
with the amount of fuel that we distribute. The bulk of our business is up at Sound Shore Road. We just don't have the physical capacity at Calverton.
You're bringing the fuel to Calverton now to exchange into mom and pop trucks, it sounds like.
That's for our South Shore.
Right.
When Mr. Casmantinez purchased Metro, it was at an auction, okay? And it was, he got a favorable price for it, and he bought it first before he determined how we're gonna use it. So in the beginning, we were gonna actually, distribute just biofuel from Calverton, but that plan has been scrapped because, the biofuel plant in Brooklyn was scrapped, so we never built a biofuel tank. So right now, we just use that as a distribution for our western, Brookhaven customers and our South Shore customers, primarily. Sometimes some of the Riverhead guys, like, the Calverton fuel guy, he'll pull in there and fill up, cause it's closer than going up to the tank farm.
How is the biofuel get into Brooklyn if it's gonna come from
No,
Brooklyn to?
it's coming to, that's where you can get it, bulk, you buy it in Brooklyn.
barge.
It comes in, we have some tanks in Brooklyn, so we just fill up one of the tanks in Brooklyn and it'll come out in one of our Metro
From barge.
trucks. Right, from Brooklyn, because that's a wholesale thing, that's not, we're not a retail, most of what Brooklyn is not a retail operation. It's not even a wholesale distribution, it's storage. And we still have to go through site plan. which we're very anxious to get going on.
And
I
if
don't wanna
this-
get into it, but there wasn't much mention of the intersection of Pennies and, what's it, Pennies and South Shore Road?
I believe,
down at the bottom of the hill.
Jeff did, okay,
I don't wanna
Wiped
start
out
all
there.
that up, you know, but, I mean, it's been a long
20
time
years
right
ago, I
here.
wiped out there,
So-
a lot of sand and stuff.
Yeah.
Was that something that we're
Blew my
looking at
dust up.
too? Is it something that we looked at as well?
It's a dangerous intersection,
So,
24-wheel truck coming down with 130,000 pounds.
So if I may, just a point of information, you have a table of resolution, so what you would probably do, the new language would be to amend the resolution you have on the table, that's the way.
and my question also becomes if, if,
change,
if,
Yeah.
what I'm hearing.
I think we went through it, didn't we?
my other question is, if this cannot be accomplished at this turn corner, at the corner with the purchasing of the property, what then?
We should put up a resolution at the next town board meeting to start the engineering to fix the intersection
What then?
and not depend on URT.
That's a question that exists today without this
Would you rescind the
application.
special permit, is that what the question is?
No, I'm just, because it's in the resolution.
Which part?
The-
They can't do it?
I can tell you, you
This
can
hap-
do
th-
it no
those
matter
improvements
what,
we
so.
needed
Vic,
with
is there any-
it, without this
Is
application.
there any
I can
chance
tell you
that if
I
this
can't do it.
intersection doesn't get fixed, that URT is gonna go out of business?
Say that again?
You're gonna go out of business?
If the intersection's not fixed, no.
Okay, just check.
I mean, if it's a condition that they explore all
Can't get that
possibilities to improve the intersection and they can't, I guess it's physically impracticable to be complied
I think
with.
the best
Does
way to
that
get
make the
situation
resolution void, is your question? I mean, I think that really what they're doing is they're offering an off-site improvement that we wouldn't be able to require of them at the outset.
They're offering.
So it's a community benefit.
Well, everybody's using it, it's not just URT who uses that intersection. School buses, as pointed out, people coming with their cars.
And it doesn't become part of the access facilities in the special permit.
Well, again, what is the application that's before you? The application that's before you is to add 6 pencil tanks and a pad.
And then we go back to the traffic question, so we'll
you know,
wait to hear that.
The question is, what's the percentage of the expansion here on that 20-something acres of land? That's what, and what are we actually dealing with? Is it
It's
3%?
a fraction, it's a fraction of,
3%
it's a
expansion,
fraction of
2%
a
expansion?
Well,
percent.
it's a potential of 108,000 gallons. We know
Right.
that the large trucks are a 12,000 gallon truck, so it's about 8 more trucks a day
Right.
when you have 40 trucks a day.
But they're
So that's
present, but we have
potential.
but again, we have no evidence to say that that's not happening today, January, I mean.
Well, right now, the trucks are coming up empty.
February 28th.
All right, so
And
let's get the rest of the
And
information.
therefore, you know, will that expansion result in a substantial change to what is occurring today? That's really the analysis, not the question of what's happening today.
Right, and that's kind of what the
I think it's gonna
clarification we
fuel.
wanted.
So,
You actually gonna go through less fuel and more.
I mean, if that's a concern, I mean, we could say we're gonna take care of the intersection ourselves and take URT out of it.
We're gonna
Exactly.
sell so much heating oil.
That's what we should
it.
do
You're gonna sell
immediately.
the heating oil, it's not gonna, more people aren't gonna go to heating oil because they put a mix in it.
I
One
think-
last concern we have is, and I've mentioned it in the paper and I've mentioned it right up at this podium, 108,000 gallons for a 5% mix. And 6 years ago, they came in for 36,000 gallons for a 10% mix. The math just doesn't fit. And I'll leave it on that note.
Well, that was a different product, wasn't it? The 36,000 tank, wasn't that,
Ethanol.
yeah, it was ethanol, which is
Ethanol,
what needed.
I know, it's a
So
different,
it's
but,
a different
but the
product.
nu- I'm talking about the numbers.
But it was
different
also
product.
something that we wanted to do. It was also something that we wanted to start distributing gasoline from the rack, and we've withdrawn that application. So that's completely different than what's happening here.
You need to.
So I'm just going by size, I'm not
Yeah.
talking about what's going in or what's going out. I'm talking 108,000 gallons
No, I'm
for a
talking
5%
about,
versus
sir, I'm talking about what the
36,000
law,
gallons for
no,
10%.
I'm talking about what the law is. The fact of the matter is that was something that we wanted to, that URT was petitioning the town to do it had nothing to do with the state regulation. Yes, we had to include ethanol to distribute gasoline as the federal requirements thing, but that was to distribute an additional product off the rack. We're not doing any of that. All we're doing is complying with state law with the existing business that we have. We just have to mix it between 5 and 20%. And the reason the state went to 20%, they want to have everybody in the state
That's a-
put 20% into their home heating oil, okay?
the
But
green
they were-
energy.
That's demographic.
But they were worried that the cost would be prohibitive and they would have a revolt with the people, okay? So they went from 5 to 20, and then at 6%, there's a sliding scale up for New York State tax credits that you can get. That's the only reason we're doing the blend at the rack, and our competitors can do that, we can't right now.
John, you bring
And
up,
how long
you
ago
bring
did
up
you
a
co-
good, you
I'm
bring up a
sorry.
good point, and what I'll do is look at that old application, but I think if my memory serves me right, the 36,000 was gonna be devoted to maybe 2 tanks being.
That's correct.
Being changed, so
Two.
as opposed to the whole tank farm being used in this case. I think that might be a
Right,
distinction.
it was 2 tanks.
Right,
Right, exactly.
2
Right.
tanks, 36,000 gallons.
Right,
For
right.
10%.
so whatever the
And-
capacity of those 2 tanks are, you divide the
It's a math, I mean,
36,000.
the math just
It's a
doesn't
math,
fit, right.
well, yeah, but I think this is involving all the tanks, which would have
The
heating oil.
250
So,
million.
however many tanks are up there, so it'd be
20
two as
22
compared
million
to, let's say, 20.
Yeah.
Equates
Okay.
to how many gallons?
If I remember correctly, because I think that's what the prior
22 million
application
and
was.
55 gallons
The prior
a barrel?
application in
Yes.
2011, they
Actually,
were
it's
only
not
looking to
50, I
do 2
thought it
tanks.
used to
That's
be,
correct.
but that's not the way they
As I
calculate
said,
it.
just one of my concerns is that it's an RA 40 zoned area. It's
RA80.
RA 80.
Yeah.
So,
So
I
like
mean, it
the
really
zone.
is mostly passenger cars that are up there. It's residential cars for the most part up there. The trucks that are turning there are
Not my
generated
Which-
from your site.
Which
So I'm just,
actually,
I'm just
ironically, our
pointing.
traffic engineers informed me that the MapQuest people, they routinely during these congestion times, when you plug into pumpkin farming, they send people up Town Shore Road to avoid Sam Avenue.
That's,
So it's-
actually Waze.
Yeah.
That's Waze.
Either
Alrighty.
way, we get them, so,
Yeah.
and the police have been helpful, but they just go right
And
around.
they got the
Somebody's gotta
helicopters.
talk
You
to
guys got everything.
the
Get
computer,
around.
you know,
Can't
to
get
the
it.
Hubbard Avenue gets
streamers,
their
get 'em to
area
stop
gets
it. No, he
congested.
tried to,
Yeah.
I figured he
Well,
did.
Traffic
I grew up
and
there,
health.
I.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
everything.
All right, so are we gonna write something for, we have a vote on Tuesday?
Bob will write something up and get back to the board where we stand with
Try to
everything.
get something to you
I think
by
there's
the
been a
end
lot of
business
discussion
tomorrow.
here, so
All right.
let them write
All
it
right,
up.
thank you very much.
Thank
All I
you.
can tell you is my entire lifetime, there's never been just residential cars on that road.
I'm
Oh, I
happy.
know, but there's a lot more
I'm older than
residential
you,
cars. But
so
there's,
your entire
but,
lifetime has been.
but there's a lot more residential cars. It's a dangerous intersection with the trucks
With or
turning.
without the improvement.
Yeah.
That's why we
That's
should
not going
So-
away.
fix it right away.
But they're asking for
That's
an
not
expansion
business.
of a non-conforming use in a residential
Which is
neighborhood.
why
I
they're gonna
think we
get,
need
we're
to
gonna get
address
them
it.
to pay for it, but we should put up the resolution and
Not
get
putting
the
them out of
engineer to
business.
start working on the intersection right now today, because we are all concerned about that intersection, whether we approve the special permit or not. So let's put it up today, put it up on Tuesday to hire an engineer to study that intersection. And if URT doesn't get the special permit, they don't pay for it, we do. If we're concerned about the people that are making those turns, we should put it up on Tuesday to hire the engineer.
Let's hear back from Bob and for Jeff, because of the special permit, they,
That was a good
we
conversation.
have the engineer, but they would be required to, pay for the engineer, so let's
Jim,
just see their
I remember this
response on that.
years ago when it was coming out, and it was, a small percentage of an increase, it didn't exceed a 10% expansion, so we were faced with the decision, do you wanna go for a public hearing, or do you wanna just adopt the resolution? And we said, put it up for a public hearing, cause we wanna hear from the public.
Right.
And we're glad we have heard from the public, and I think we've worked some things out, and hopefully we'll make that intersection better at the expense of the applicant, not the town.
Hey, you know,
Cause
when-
it does need to be fixed either way.
No, it's, when it rains, it pours, and
And
it's something to.
Yep.
you know, when you look in a closet, somebody's hiding on you and they scare you, you know, you're leery going in that closet again. I mean, they tried to pull a fast one a few years ago, so there's a lot of skepticism,
Yes.
and rightfully so, but there's enough eyes on it, there's enough people paying attention that I don't think they're gonna get away with anything.
Now you're gonna give me a
I agree
nightmare.
with you.
That's all.
All right, can we move on?
Yep, we are on to Simple Table LLC, the concept plan overview. So I think we have Ernesto and Drew for this.
A simple table?
This is the property that's across from the Historical Society that Al Krupski
Oh,
came and
yeah, yeah,
presented
yeah.
us.
Oh, they
It's
call
go-
it simple table?
That's the site plan approval, was the simple table for the
The old
40C
Fire
restaurant.
Country building?
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
But that site plan has actually been expired.
Doesn't matter, they still got
I
an
wanted to be
approval
nice
and the
parking
code
lot,
hasn't changed, so
so I
they
can
can go
make
back
out
and
there
get
with my
another
girlfriend
approval for the
from
same
my
exact
wife's
thing. But the supervisor and I attended the legislative meeting on Monday, they asked for a concept plan. I'm sorry to dump that in your lap, Ernesto, I did send you an email that afternoon saying, please put something together quickly so that we could get it to the county ledge that afternoon. He did it and sent it to all involved agencies, actually the supervisor's office and
We
myself.
have concepts for these, we have concepts for, Mr. Sims' property, we didn't get one for this one?
Because
this-
at first, originally Al thought maybe, when he brought it forward, he was trying to see, because there's some properties that have been given, in the counties, I think there's one in Babylon, that gave a very rough concept plan, and Riverhead's been held to a sort of a,
Higher standards, you think?
possibly, for some of the concept plans, so
Sorry,
it
I
was
ripped
put,
these up.
put forward without the concept plan, but just a description, so that they asked, but in order for them to rate them,
Right, they
for
need
the
it.
properties, they wanted
Yeah,
this,
'cause
so
they'll
this,
just
that's.
table it and hold it forever. if
Yeah,
want.
they were gonna pass it,
So
so
this is
that's what,
something
that's why we
simple
asked for this to be done.
that had been presented before, that Catherine Stark, Al Krupski's aide, had given to me the day of the hearing, that said it's just a simple narrative as to what you're going to do, and then a simple plan, so that's why it was done this way. So other towns, I think this was in Smithtown, this particular plan, Venice Park, and I think she gave you a copy of this also,
I
right?
think it was in Babylon, one of the
Yeah,
harbor plans.
so it's just basically a narrative of what they're
It's very
doing and
big.
very,
That's what we did.
minor improvements to the property. So other towns are being held to the same standard.
So I will turn it over to Ernesto and Drew to present.
Yeah, we're not really looking to do too much, as this park, as the,
Louder.
louder,
Here,
It's
you're
the
right here,
theme.
right here.
It's the theme today.
as getting, this piece of land, the building would be removed already.
And that's part of the acquisition of the property.
Yes.
Any property that that's turned over to the county, the owner of the property is responsible for removing the structures prior to the acquisition.
Yeah, so we, have proposed to put in 12 spots, based on just utilizing the existing asphalt that's already there, rather than spending money to, rehab the parking lot. We would just simply stripe. We can add 2 handicap stalls, parking stalls to the south of the property, make it easy to access the launching, ramp, and, that's really about it. 10 additional, traditional parking stalls and 2, handicap
Probably about
stalls.
8 too many. but
So the cost is gravel
Gravel,
and some paint.
Little pea rock and little paint.
And the owner rips down the structure, right?
Yeah.
Yes?
And it's nice because it's right next to another property that is, owned by the county, and then I believe the, owner from the site plan coming in for the 7-Eleven, right next door to that has agreed to an easement behind their parcel of property also.
Is that where that car thing is?
Yeah.
That's going, that'd be
Yeah.
a 7-Eleven, huh?
Yeah, but we'd have access through the three parcels and as a little bit of a walking path, which would be a nice beginning. You know, the BOA does talk about having a green belt along the water, so.
Perfect location for open
Yep.
space preservation.
Yep.
Agreed.
Perfect idea.
All right, so if everybody's
Thank
okay
you.
with this, we will submit this
Good.
to the county for them to,
Good.
to move forward and rate this.
Very
All right.
exciting, I can't
Very
believe how
good.
exciting that was.
Thank you.
Not really, it's riveting. Can't wait to go park in that handicap spot and get in
No
the boat.
sarcasm.
John, do you wanna,
People
Dawn
who
for
are
the
handicapped.
CDA? Cause we have, they're on for this week? Yeah,
Bye, guys.
thank you.
Mine was so easy, wasn't it?
Now, I don't like bringing things off the floor because, you know, how that turned last time, my God, it was embarrassing. But I have been meeting, privately and publicly with people about the DC one zoning that I'd like to propose for the board. I realize there's a revitalization committee which meets certain times, chaired by Catherine. But there are other members, I think some of the revitalization as well as other stakeholders in town that would like to call and like to sit and talk with the board about what they see as their solution to a lot of the problems that we're dealing with as far as heights, shadowscapes, parkland, open space. These are people that are actually invested in downtown. These are stakeholders. These are people who have got the money and got the desire and got the talent to go ahead and build what needs to be built. So they would like some time with the board to sit and talk with their ideas. I wanted to bring them in today at a work session. I realized that we had a big work session today with URT, and all that. So I was asked that not to do it this week.
By whom?
Well, I think when I spoke with John, it was because of I'm sure John was in conference with you, I mean. if you had-
I think he did bring it up to me. My question, my only question is when you, who is the group that you're coming in? Because like, you know, we don't let a lot, like the, say Northville Civic, let's just say for URT, we don't have them come up and address that separately because there's avenues to do that. There's, you know, at the public, at the town board meetings.
Well, my only
So,
concern-
and then there's the
well, I'm gonna
downtown
explain.
committee, yeah.
My only concern is this, and I could be wrong, but so many times we draft code changes and amendments for what we like, and that's not always good. Sometimes it's best to go ahead and have a forum, whether it's once a week, once a month, once every other week, whatever, with different people to get different ideas and do it and put something together that seems to be a collaborated effort from all involved and all affected by what we might do. So that comes with time. So it's nice to have a public hearing, a formal public hearing, but I don't want a formal public hearing. I wanna have the focus groups, I wanna have, I hate the word charrette, because Amy Zorni, who I beat in the first election, used to call charrettes, but that type of discussion, and they wanna have that with the board, so I guess we consider it an open meeting, but not like a work session, but not, you know what I'm saying?
But
So-
I guess my question is if, who's determining who the stakeholders are to be, or who the stakeholders are? So if we're having an open meeting that we're asking the public to come in, right, and have a discussion on this, you know, I believe wholeheartedly in that, we did do that once again. If you'd like to hold another public meeting, to that effect, if you'd like to arrange it in a different manner, I think that's fine. But I think that, you know, I'm not sure who the stakeholders are. We do have the downtown committee, they certainly can come, anybody can, you know, I think Catherine's opened that up to people to come in and talk. That is a forum from that, but if you want
I
it as a
realize that,
board.
but I want the whole board involved, and I'll tell you why,
I don't
because there's
disagree.
lots of different directions out there, and there's lots of different opinions, and it really should be, that forum should be brought to the board, not the board going to that forum.
But I think
That's-
if you have a group of stakeholders from different
Well, it's-
stakeholders that you would like to bring, I think it needs to be
It's designers, it's architects,
balanced.
it's investors, it's property owners, it's.
Who are they?
Who Are They is a great band, Lindsay's part of that band. Well, you got,
Nice segue for
Chambers
Lindsay.
involved, the bid's involved, you got, Marty involved, you got Brian Luke involved, there's a lot of people that
But there you'll
are
sit on
very
the
much
downtown
affected.
committee.
By the way, just to let you know, I think we have 5 or 6 people that are business owners and part of the bid and the chamber on the downtown committee, and actually, when all of that came to the forefront, which was a good thing, I actually took on 2 more business people into the committee.
Well, that's nice of you.
So the downtown committee, which I'm the liaison, not the chair, does,
Well,
encompass a wide part of the community.
I
And just to
understand.
let you know, we are all stakeholders in the community. The residents are also stakeholders in the community. We're paying taxes.
Well, you don't have to preach to
We're
me
all
about that, I'll tell you that
stakeholders.
right now.
Can I-
You do
can
not
I-
have to
can I
preach
make-
as a
can I
person who lives
make- can I
downtown
make-
my entire
can I
life.
make a
But I will tell you
suggestion?
this, there are some questions, whether what's being discussed and what's being presented is being related back to us in the same way.
Can I make a suggestion, Jim? Why don't you attend one of the downtown committees, committee meetings? And
that'd be
just,
great.
and just for your own benefit, see if what you're looking to do here is already happening there, and then if not, then come back and, you know, formulate what it is that you wanna,
Well,
that you
what I'll
wanna do
do
with
is
an
I will
agenda.
meet with the focus group that has reached out to me.
Absolutely.
And, maybe I will just spearhead all of their, at the revitalization meetings, maybe.
Well, then
Yeah,
what
I think
about the
that would be
people
good.
that joined the committee?
Well,
And
they'll
they
be a part of-
came
I will
from that
come.
group. And just to let you know, somebody actually said at the most recent
I
meeting.
listen to everything.
Well, let me just
that-
finish, that they were surprised how they had been fed misinformation and alarmed, when actually we are all working together and trying to figure out a solution that makes everyone happy downtown and still enables business
I
people
don't
to
doubt that it's.
make money.
you know,
So
Catherine,
everyone is represented
I
on
don't,
this
I don't
group.
wanna, I don't wanna,
And I'd love to have you come.
I don't
It
wanna
would be
step on your
great.
parade, I'm just saying.
It's not
I
a parade,
think
but I'd
everybody,
love to have you come.
I
It
think
would-
everybody has the right, intentions, the best intentions for downtown. I'm not short-sheeting anybody. I just, like I do, there are some people that got, and there are some, and they are stakeholders. I mean, maybe not all of them, but they all have something to say. And I'd like that to be a part of the discussion. I'd like to be open and honest, yes, I realize we don't wanna make it a headline in the paper, I get it. We wanna get this thing right, but I want the best form to get that done.
But I think if you look at a review of who the stakeholders are in the downtown committee, my curiosity is, the stakeholders that are in the downtown committee, are they not communicating back to their stakeholders? So if you have somebody from the bid on the downtown committee, the reason that you have these different stakeholders, they are supposed to be reporting back to their committee, getting the input from their committee, and then bringing it back to the downtown. And I'm wondering if there may be some
I think
gap
I'm
in
sure there is,
that
as there is
there.
with anything that's government. There are factions and there are different, that's why, that's why we, as the town board, should be the hub that brings all these different
But
folks
we
together.
still need to recognize people as a group. So it's, if somebody's coming and speaking on behalf of the bid, then they need to be with, you know, somebody from the bid. Or if it's somebody, you know, I think if there's a different, you know, I think go to the downtown committee, see if there's somebody
I get it,
missing
but I
there or
remember back in
lacking.
'97, I sat on the downtown focus group that did the master plan. As a local person, cause I care about downtown. And I sat with a lot of people from the local area that created the zoning for downtown Main Street. And knew that arts and all that stuff was gonna be a big thing 20 years later, and that's where we're at. But, so that's what I'm saying, I don't wanna not have a platform for people to come and talk, that's it.
I totally agree with you. So I think if you start by just going to the downtown committees, and if you, after going there, if you think that that platform needs to be expanded somehow, and then, you know, just bring those thoughts back, and then, you know, if we,
Well, I just
because
want-
you can't just invite like 3 stakeholders here, because we
No,
don't invite like.
there was 8 people coming
But we
today
don't, like, we
that I
don't,
had to
like,
tell them they couldn't come.
let's just say the Coalition Against Housing at EPCAL, right?
Oh,
So,
Lord, well,
but-
that's
but-
just a
but
name.
they're
And now
stakeholders-
it's the coalition against anything.
But what I'm saying, Jim, those are stakeholders also in a particular item, so are we going to
Stakeholders
then,
or
are we going?
agenda-driven?
But this
question
is
that.
what I'm saying, who do we then have come to the town work session, when we already have the avenue of a town board meeting, and we have open comments at each town board meeting?
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, do you really wanna get inundated at a town board meeting with the same 8 people? For
I
2
think
hours
it's a
after town
public,
board
it's an absolute public forum, and that is what we are here to do.
So,
I mean,
Jim,
I understand that, but if we know what, I get that, for something out of the blue, you wanna talk to the town board about a problem you're having or an issue you're having, that's one thing. But to use, after a town board meeting, is time for an open forum on DC1, when we can have a focus group to deal with that as a board.
Well, I guess my question is the definition of a focus group.
DC1 is so
I
important
think
to
if
this
there's, I think there's a focus group, do we want that to come out of the downtown committee?
Well, I think they have several offshoots of the downtown, but I don't know what
we
they
had,
are.
we
There's
had
several
all the
different
members,
offshoots.
we had all the members from the different focus groups for the Downtown Revitalization
Yes.
Committee come before us. So I think the business community is asking essentially.
must
What
have
are you
missed
saying?
Did I
What'd
miss
you
that
just
one?
say?
I missed
When
that.
you had Steve Schauger, Diane Tucci, you had 4 people that were on 4 different subcommittees come in and talk to us, and I think the business, I think.
one person from each subcommittee. But the
Right.
by the way, the business community
Is a subcommittee?
is a part of the downtown committee.
Are they
You
a
got Brian
subcommittee?
DeLuca, Joe Petroselli, Diane Tucci, Anthony Strollo, James Farley's with the IDA, Sherry Worth from Diggers, we've got Glennis who owns a business.
Do you have attendance sheets
downtown.
as to who shows up to those meetings? Cause sometimes those meetings are not,
The meetings are
conducive
very
to the
well
time.
attended, I think Diane will agree.
But
Yep,
has Joe
there's
Petroselli
always-
been to any?
Joe, and Brian work together and report back and forth.
Has Joe been to any meetings? Cause you said his name.
Well, Brian, I guess.
Joe's on the
recommends-
committee, but Brian and Joe work, in conjunction with one
Has
another.
Joe been to any meetings?
No, he hasn't.
All right, I will
He
sit
certainly,
down
he's on
and
the
figure out the
committee.
best
The
way to
fact that
do
he
this.
doesn't come has nothing to do with me, by the way.
I'm not saying it does.
Well, you sort of indicated that.
No, I
What?
sort of indicated that, what
Just like my wife.
Jim brought up an excellent suggestion. And I spoke with Jim about it last night, he brought up an excellent suggestion, was setting a separate time aside where the public and the business people can just come in and talk to the town board as a whole body as to what their concerns are or what their recommendations are.
That's right here as a work session. It's
Right.
where it should be done,
Yes,
because you can
I
have a much
agree.
more intimate conversation about things than in an open, not in an open meeting, but at a town board meeting, when somebody's up there at a microphone, and we're sitting up there looking down at everybody,
So
this
if
is
we,
where we can
if
get
we
our
would
gloves
like,
off and
if
get
we,
dirty.
if we would like to do that, it's fine, but we need to come up with a list of who we're inviting as stakeholders.
Remember what you did, we had that one focus, that one meeting here at 5 o'clock that went for 2 hours, and of course, well, I don't wanna say no more, but that's what we need more of that.
I totally agree with you, but there has
I
to.
think if we can stretch this out for 5 years, then everything we belt, and then we don't have to worry about this on.
But that's what I'm saying, I don't have an objection to it, but I think we have to identify who the stakeholders are to make sure that we give an invitation out to the stakeholders.
I have no problem with
Same
that.
as we have for, I think, do we wanna use the same list as the Downtown Revitalization Committee? The stakeholders that we've all approved and voted on for the Downtown Revitalization, and get a
Sure.
representative
No.
for each one of those.
I think it should be an open meeting for anybody that lives in the town of Riverhead or has a business in the town of Riverhead that wants to come and talk to us.
Then
Why
we
do
can
you
have
have to have a business? Then let's open it up to residents.
I
Let's have
said
it open.
that
to
first.
All right, so you want to have
Well,
another
no,
meeting just like we had before with Jim, we just wanna set a different agenda for
I really
them.
like focus groups. I mean, yes, you wanna maybe have one meeting where we're talking about area residences and what their desires would be when they come downtown a couple times a year. Or do you wanna have it just maybe one focus group with the business owners? I mean, you can have a bunch of different focus groups. And not every, I don't want a free-for-all at every meeting, but if you focus your discussion items with particular groups, then you can formulate, all right, now we've got this big mass of pudding, and then you formulate something that, I mean, it's work, but it's.
So why don't we do this? Why doesn't everybody put some thought to it, figure out who you would like to attend the meeting, to represent the different groups, the focus groups, that we will put out an
The public
agenda,
will
they
always
will,
have a say,
they
I'm
will,
sure.
they certainly can attend.
Never do.
They will be able to go back to their focus groups, because obviously you're picking people that represent more than just one person
There's just
as
a
a
lot of ideas.
stakeholder.
There's a lot of
So
ideas
I
out there.
think that's fine, but I think we need to find out who are the stakeholders that we are asking to come to this work session. So, and what stakeholders need to be here.
Every resident and every business owner. So I think it's important to have
That's what the
both,
committee is.
if I could finish.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it's not, like I said, she's got a great committee, we might be able to
I
all
think
shoot
you get
from
enough
that.
airtime.
What's that?
I think Jody gets a lot of time to talk.
so I think that we,
Okay with that.
I think that it's important to have businesses and residences together, because residents might say, we only want 2 stories, and businesses might say, well, then we're packing up and leaving, and then you have both groups at the table talking to each other about the different hurdles and different ideas that each group has.
I'd rather.
By the way, no one
understand
is
that, but
talking
that's
about 2
that could be
stories anymore.
contentious. I think if you get an idea or a feeling from every different faction, revitalization committee, residences, business owners, concert goers, painters, artists, whatever, and we formulate something based on all the information that we got, and we draft something that we think addresses all of those needs,
I just wrote down names.
then you go to public hearing, then everybody comes together. I think you can really focus your concentration, so you're not being torn in nine, like like a meeting where everybody's all over the map and you don't know what the hell you're doing. I don't want that.
Okay, I agree. I don't want that ever again either.
That's me, I don't know, maybe I'm.
Well,
I mean, it's
I'm
just-
hearing 2 different things. I'm hearing, people, stakeholders to representative large groups, and then Jody, I hear you say every resident and every stakeholder.
It's
So
okay. I'm with
they
Jim.
are 2
I'm with Jim, whatever
totally
Jim
different
wants to do,
things.
whatever he thinks is the
Catherine's
best
got the right
avenue.
idea,
And
she's got a
Catherine.
focus group together too, and now they branched off in 4 different.
Jim, could you attend one of the meetings and
I'm
then
gonna
just
have
come
to. I'm
back
gonna
and
have
let
to
us
see
know,
what that's all
because
about.
it may already be
You asked me
happening and you just
before.
you haven't been, I think maybe if you go, it may.
That's all, but now
I am
now I'm
gonna-
getting riled up now.
I am gonna repeat, what was unfortunate is someone went out there, someone looked at the document, that was a rough draft, said 2 stories, and went out there and spread rumors throughout town that we were shutting down business, which is just literally not true.
Well,
And
actually,
when I'm speaking,
yeah,
when people come to me, when people have come to meetings, business owners, they actually spoke after and said, this isn't at all what I thought it was gonna be. The downtown committee is very representative of the entire community, and it is heavy on business people. So it's a very fair-minded group, and I think you need to hear from everybody. And that's where I stand on that.
and I think that when the draft came out, it was put out on the, social media by the local newspapers, the draft, and that's how everybody found out what was being
And that was a
proposed.
jump off point, that was a starting point, and
But
a
it
lot
wasn't
has
one person
happened
running around
since
telling
then,
people.
and certainly, you know, Jim has spoken to me about coming to the downtown meetings, a couple times he's
I have.
mentioned it, so you have asked me.
But you were like at 5 o'clock or 5:30 or something, right?
That's right.
You'll have to sleep
Because
in late.
we
Well, it's
set
tough when you got a young
we
family,
tend
but
to be
that's all right.
5:15, 5:30 to accommodate people who are working till 5, and other people that don't wanna stick around really long, so we have sort of a medium
All right.
point. We meet right downtown, and Jim
Oh,
has
do we,
spoken
where
to
do we
me.
meet? I'll be there, I'll be there.
So
Somewhere right in
you
the
are
center.
welcome to come, but, you know, and anyone else is welcome, no
Right,
one
you're
else
back.
has asked me about it. As long as there's only 2 of us there, we're always good. I think Laura came to
Well,
one
that's,
meeting.
that's, right, well, that's another thing, yeah. That's why I like having it here, where, you know, we can actually, post it, and
Me
then,
too.
I like,
It is
I like the
posted.
whole board
All the
involved.
meetings are posted on the website.
No, I'm talking about, I like the whole board involved.
too.
I mean, posted as far as, open meeting.
But maybe you'll go to the next downtown revitalization committee and then report back as to what
Yeah.
we're.
And I
Reading
think,
newspaper.
I think this
And by the
go-
way, just one more thing, I'm sorry, the next meeting, we do have Eric Alexander from Vision Long Island is
Oh,
going
boy.
to be coming and addressing the group. That's, March 20th, and then April 1st, we have a general meeting with the whole group.
Eric's a great guy.
And I think this goes back
was a-
to the
that was one of his
committee,
presenters.
committee reports calendar, so that the things that are going on the committee can get reported back to the whole board. I think that this will help,
Whole board.
having these reports on the weeks that we don't have resolution, so that the board stays informed of what's going on in all the committees.
Thank,
All right?
let's go.
Okay?
Let's go.
John, is Dawn?
I just told us to come in if you had any questions, it's pretty
Hey,
not.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I mean, it was
the
basically just
Oh, there's a
the
group
first
back
one
there.
is the, just giving her the
Those are
opportunity.
both fine.
The first one is, we will have a CDA meeting, along with the town board meeting, and this is the resolution, if I can get up, adopts an amendment to the ethics code of the Community Development Agency. We had talked about it, previously at one
It
of our
just,
other
it
meetings.
just cleans it up. It says, where it says he or she, it says they, or where it says there was, there shall be, and things like that. It's just basic housekeeping, no substance to any changes.
Laura, did you, the CDA meeting didn't get included with the change of time?
Okay,
it's
yeah, so let's
still
ask, okay,
posted
so we're
as
gonna ask Dawn for another resolution that will
Uh-oh.
post the times to the
Fire
6
up.
o'clock They will follow the same calendar on, what is it, the first meeting of every month or whatever it is.
Okay.
So they'll follow the same time and calendar of the town board, as, you know, on the first meeting of the month, whatever the time posted is for that
I-
meeting.
And you will.
Yeah.
And so this resolution will be on, the CDA meeting will be at 6 o'clock. Should we post that on the website saying, because it's still posted as
As-
a 2 o'clock meeting, a CDA, 'cause-
Oh, okay,
You got time to change that,
so
right?
how do we wanna handle that? I spoke to Dawn, she said whatever you know, whatever the board wanted
just
to
check with
do.
Dan McCormick, he's the open meetings
I don't
with
think
the
there's
guru
people
with
out
that,
there
just
just
ask him how
wait.
that gets posted,
Think there's
and
people out
the
there waiting for the
timeframe that
CDA
has to
meeting,
get,
really?
has to get posted, so just
Mhm.
ask his recommendation to
Okay.
follow through with that
Whatever
and
it
do,
is,
yeah,
we'll-
whatever it is,
I'll go
just.
there now.
Okay.
That bus is gonna have to turn around, yeah, I got there so early.
I am dying of heat. I just have to pull mine up, sorry.
$5,500, is that the raise he's getting? It's more than the councilman.
We're considered part-time.
Holy mackerel. Yeah, tell that to my family.
Okay, the first is promotes an auto mechanic 2 in the municipal garage. 2 is amends the adopted rules and procedures of the town, for the town board of the town of Riverhead.
Move to,
Yeah,
move,
I
move,
had
move,
asked
move the,
for,
move the table.
I had asked for a copy of Robert's rules, cause it's not online, I wanna do the comparison between Robert's rules and these, but the town attorney's office has to order it, so they have to pay money in order to get a copy of Robert's rules.
So if you do,
Wait a
so you want to do what exactly?
Yeah, really.
I've asked the town attorney to give me a copy of Robert's rules, cause I went online and tried to find it so that I could do the comparison between Robert's rules and what we're adopting, but it's not available online unless you pay for it, so I've asked the town attorney to get me a copy of it, which I don't have.
So are
yet.
you interested in adopting Robert's rules as opposed to our own?
Yes,
Well, the only thing is, this
But I just
particular
wanna read it.
resolution doesn't take effect for another 100 years, so I wouldn't worry about it, 'cause none of us will be here.
And this is not changing any of the rules of our
Says
meeting
March 5th,
rules, this is just the
2103.
executive session? That's the only thing that was changed in here.
No,
It
the only
doesn't
thing
change
that we
any,
did was add the property to the executive session. It's the same rules that we've
But
been
it's not adopted until
abiding
2100.
there was no, there was,
No, I think it should stay there.
so what we can do, because this resolution does not change any of the meeting procedures, we can adopt this one, and then if you then review Robert's rules and want to change the, how the meetings are conducted themselves, then we can address that as a
I have to
separate
look at this,
resolution.
only because I think to have a supermajority of 5-0 to even bring a resolution off the floor is
Me too.
ridiculous.
Me too. That's why I think it should be Robert's rules, because, you know, it was okay. We have
I think
such a-
Robert's rules might be a supermajority.
No, not to take something
Well,
off the floor.
bringing something off the
requires
floor is
3.
important. I think it's important to have 5 votes. It shouldn't just be.
Well, that's
general.
not, that's,
One of
that,
the games that we
but
just
I have
got
to say,
into,
I have to
that's
say, that is not a change from what's currently in the, that's not a change in this, that's been there for, since 2003, 13. So that is
Since
not a change.
2013, and I can tell you why it was done. Because 3 council people wanted to bring a resolution off the floor, and the 2 people that didn't know about it were upset about it, and that's why they said, we're gonna make it a mandatory of 5 people. So,
But we're not
Supervisor,
changing
you've
that.
said time and time again that you set the agenda and you put the resolutions in the packet that you wanna see. So,
But
if
you
you
can-
don't put one of our resolutions in that we wanna see, we should have an opportunity to take it off the floor without you objecting,
can-
cause you already objected by not putting it in the packet.
Yes, but you can take any resolution that you want in the packet off at the work session.
No,
Same
I'm
as,
saying,
same as I can, right?
No.
So I don't put it in there, you can bring one at the work session, put it up, and I think you have until, I don't have to look at it right here,
Oh,
but until 4 o'clock the day before to put it in with the 3 signatures.
Sure,
The
but
only-
we
the
all
only-
know that's not a hard and fast rule either.
right.
And it
Exactly.
depends on who and what.
Well, if there's a
I've seen thing done Tuesday morning.
But if there's a majority agreement, but it
I'm
should be
saying.
tabled, so we should clean this up and follow what we have, so it's not changing what we currently have in place.
I disagree.
At all.
I don't think you should ever need 5
Let me-
votes
all right,
to
let me-
take
all
it
right,
off
well,
the
keep
floor.
it going.
I'm just saying, then that would be a change, an additional change,
No,
because that's
why
what's
adopt
current.
it and then change it?
It's already adopted, Jody. If we don't
already
adopt
law.
this, it's
We don't do
already in
anything,
there.
it stays the same.
If we
I know,
don't
I wanna
adopt it,
change
it's already in there.
You're looking to make changes, I wanna change it.
You know,
3 people should be able to take a resolution off the floor. What if I'm sick, like I was the 2 Thursdays before, and Tim brought up the resolutions that he wanted in the packet to hire Dawn, and then for the URT, and I wasn't here, and he didn't have a 3rd person at the work session to say, yes, let's put it in the packet.
You
But
can
we
make it a
wanna vote on it
supermajority.
that night.
You make it a supermajority then. So that you don't have all 5, you have a 4. Robert's rules, I believe, is supermajority.
It's not.
Okay.
Well, all right, we'll look at it.
That's why I wanna see Robert's rules, and I requested a copy of it.
Well,
So-
and you know, we are trying very hard to work together, all 5 of us as a team, something that, you seem to find extremely challenging.
No, actually, I don't,
Actually, you
Catherine.
do.
No,
You push back at every opportunity, and I say again and again, we are 5 members elected by the people of Riverhead to work together.
yes.
And we could, not that I expect people to agree at all the times, wouldn't be appropriate, but looking to have people on this board work together as a team.
So you call me coming to you and asking you to break out one resolution into 2, so that I
Suddenly
can
you
vote?
were interested in teamwork, something that I have not seen for a full year that I've been
Okay,
in
well, I can give
office.
you several
What's that?
other examples too.
Jody working as a team for the betterment of
Oh, well, that's
Riverhead.
a personal thing.
Not
I don't
saying
wanna
that.
get- I don't
It
wanna
is a
get-
personal
And I've had
thing.
that discussion with you privately, so I have no
Yeah.
problem now
Yeah,
having it
I've had
Let's
publicly.
move on to the
So-
resolutions,
so
because we're
I'm-
starting to
I'm-
fall
I'm-
into that
I'm
black rabbit hole again.
I'm going to
Agreed.
ask, is there enough support on this? The only thing that this is changing, is to add the executive session. If Councilwoman Giglio would like to change some further resolutions, it's certainly your prerogative after you see Robert's rules to bring those matters forward. This doesn't address any of that, and so it's not making any changes to, the way meetings are conducted at this point. The only thing this is changing is, rule 1 on here. So do I have support to move this
Rule
forward?
1.
It's adding the executive stuff, that the stuff in executive session cannot be shared outside of executive session if they meet this criteria. This is what Bob presented to us.
186 adopted, 2100.
You see, Rule 1, regular meetings, and then it says work session meetings will be held on Thursday, the town board, and then it says.
See, I don't
law-
have the attachment.
Okay,
That's why I don't.
It's,
Well, they want-
subject matters that shall be considered confidential or privileged when discussed in executive session are as follows. So we followed the open meetings law and actually stated what is printed in the open meetings law for executive session. That's the only addition to this, other than I think they cleared up the paragraph before that, the timing of the meeting, so it was reflected in the resolution that the
Okay,
board
so,
passed.
right.
So, do we have enough support to keep this on the agenda?
Yeah, just, it cleans up,
Yes.
it cleans up, yeah, that's
Yes.
fine.
Tim?
Yeah, I'm fine
Yeah.
with it.
Jody?
Sure.
Okay. Appoints maintenance mechanic, 2 to the Riverhead Water District. Next is appoints police officers to the police department.
When does that happen? Effective March
Yeah, I
March
think that,
17th.
Okay.
yeah.
All 3 of them, I believe, are part-time police officers.
Yeah, no,
so
they're
they'll
all-
be able
yeah.
to come right on, right?
Yep, yep. I just like to go over there, no, we did last time, tell them that
Yeah,
they can fight.
Next is offer support to New York State Legislature to amend Chapter 399 of the laws of 2008 relating to giving the Riverhead Town Board the discretion to change speed limits, as Senate Bill number 3229 and Assembly Bill A5806, so we will just keep on sending
You've
that
been doing
out.
that for 30 years.
Every time it comes up.
We're just gonna go and speed around
Wear 'em
the
down
Capitol
eventually,
building
wear
there.
'em down.
Next is approved settlement of claim, LIPA against the town of Riverhead.
Shame on them,
Yeah,
shame
You're not
on
kidding.
them.
yep.
Anyway, but, we settle it.
I know, I'm having a hard time here. Authorizes removal of fixed assets. We did this last meeting. There were just a couple, that did not make that, and they're, added to this one. 8 is authorized acceptance of deed for non-motorized trail from the Town of Riverhead Community Development Agency to the Town of Riverhead. This is, Dawn put this in for the EPCAL trail, John?
Yeah.
So what this is we have a DASNY grant, but the trail is, deeded to the CDA, and in order to, receive DASNY money, we need to have it, in the town's,
Didn't
name.
Wait, I thought that
Did
you
we
were
just-
taking the DASNY money for the fuel or the
No, it wasn't,
heaters and
it
the
wasn't
roof.
able to be done, so what I
Is this
did was.
reversal, we did like about a month ago, do it the other way around, I don't know.
Yes,
No,
we did.
Yeah,
We
but,
had to.
but
The
what,
supervisor's request.
so what happened
pay
is there was not enough money to finish the trail because of the DASNY money, it hadn't been deeded over. So what I did was took general fund money, and transferred it to the CDA for the DASNY money, so that the trail could get completed, so that it would be ready for this spring, and it would be under the contract that we had. But the DASNY money is still in place to be able to come and do that, so that's what this is.
Well, then I need a subsequent resolution, because the general fund money was taken from the general fund and put to finish the trail as you requested, because you were gonna use the DASNY money for something else.
Which was not permitted underneath the DASNY money. Dawn
Okay,
checked if you could
but-
do that and you couldn't.
So we have bought a mower, a piece of equipment for the trail that is not covered under the DASNY grant. So we need
And-
to have that come out of the general fund then.
And I've already spoken to Drew and Ernesto about that, so it should be okay. I'll have Bill go over that with you.
All right, anyway,
Authorizes settlement for legal action in the matter of the town Riverhead versus Holt et al., 46 Creek Road, Wading River, New York.
how much we get?
I think 75.
75, and more than we thought we were getting.
Did I say
What
70?
I wanted.
76, are you on
Yeah.
number 9?
Yeah, 76 Creek Road.
76 Creek Road.
Seventy-six,
Yes.
$76?
I would imagine, so I don't think it's trust and
Doesn't
agency.
go towards attorney fees out of it.
Resolution, because they're not separated out either. Resolution designating certain properties as blighted in accordance with chapter 217, part 6, article
Oh, boy.
18, 217-210 of the town code of the town of Riverhead, and scheduling a public hearing to consider authorizing various actions to be taken on such properties.
I'll have to read that one.
It's standard what we do.
Authorizes notice of public hearing to reduce from 300 to 277 units of Riverhead Flag Corporation, and accept declaration of covenants and restrictions to limit and exhaust all remaining rights to construction condominium units approved by special permit by the town board by resolution number 680 dated November 3rd, 1982.
Where is this, with the
It's
bluffs?
Bating Hollow, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, this was a resolution that, the town attorney had put in, I think either in December or
yeah, a while
January.
ago, yeah, last
That
year.
was-
Tabled it because I think there wasn't a public hearing as a part of the process, so Bob tabled
This next is accepts retirement of a police officer.
Thank God.
Next is accepts retirement of a bay constable.
Wow.
Next is approves chapter 255 application of Sports Car Club of America, New York Region Car Control Clinic.
Where's this
Solo
at?
driving event. I do not know.
Oh, Splish
I'm
Splash.
gonna say Splish Splash, yeah, probably, yeah.
They do it every year.
Approves chapter 255 application of Event Power Riverhead Rocks Front Run, Sunday, March 24th, 2019. 16 is authorizes application to Suffolk County for HUD home funds and authorizes supervisor to execute grant agreement. Next is authorized to publish advertisement for automotive parts of the town of Riverhead. Next is order calling public hearing in the matter of the increase and improvement of the facilities of the Riverhead Water District in the town of Riverhead, Suffolk County, New York.
That's what we talked about this morning?
Yep, I'll have Bill send out the revised,
Yeah, right, sure those numbers are gonna
yeah.
change.
19 is authorizes town clerk to publish and post notices to visitors for dry hydrated lime. 20 is budget transfer.
What?
That is, I think it's just fee,
This is,
the auditor and accounting professional.
Yeah, we've had a resolution like this last 2 or 3 meetings. Bill has been transferring money from 18 to 19, I think that's what this is, as we're closing out the 2018 year.
Oh, for vendors, okay, with the public, okay, serial bonds.
21 is sets 2019 hourly rate for a call-in clerk. 22 is resolution calling public hearing regarding lateral water main extension for Tractor Supply Company, Retail Development, Middle Country Road, Calverton, New York. 23 is also authorizes the publication of the help wanted advertisement, attendance at the Suffolk County Police Academy. And 24 is authorize the Recreation Department to provide parking stickers at no charge to Riverhead Fire Department, ambulance companies, and Riverhead veterans.
That's it so
That's
far?
it.
I'm
Yep.
sure there'll be another 10 or 12.
And so, can I have a first and second to head into executive session for, one is contractual, proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, or the proposed acquisition of securities, or sale or exchange of securities held by such public body. Personnel, matters regarding the potential hiring of employee. 2 is matters regarding the potential hiring of employee. And 3, litigation, Chicago Title Company versus Union Avenue Holding Company LLC.
Motion.
Take a second?
Second.
All in favor?
This slide is shut down, what do I do here?
So carried, opposed? No one, so carried.
Slide to shut down your PC.